is brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radios, built for you to take on the road. And by Dodge, a performance revolution, an American revolution. And by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Speed Week. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newber. At Atlanta International Raceway Sunday, years of patience finally paid off for Morgan Shepherd. He won his second Winston Cup race ever, his first on a superspeedway.
And Larry, after 4 races last year, only Ford and Chevrolet had registered Winston Cup wins. This year, 4 different makes have won the first 4 races. Mark Allen reports.
Right from the start of the Motorcraft 500, more proof the GM stable of cars is able to run neck and neck with the Fords anywhere this season. Pole sitter number 3, Dale Earnhardt, in a Chevy, jumped out early with the number 47 Buick of Morgan Shepherd giving chase. But Earnhardt lost the lead when he ran out of gas 60 laps in. The number 9 car of defending champ Bill Elliott was the only Ford near the front all day in a pretty clean race. Clean, but not without problems. That's Jeff Bodine locking his brakes, missing his pit, and losing a lap he never recovered. Rick Wilson went sailing through turn 4 and was lucky he didn't collect another car in the driver's door. Lady Luck smiled on Kyle Petty after he found the backstretch wall. 6 cars going 160 miles per hour just missed him by inches. That's great driving. Time and again, fans were treated to a clinic on how to run flat out right on the edge without wrecking. That's 44 Terry Labonte and 25 Tim Richmond joining the fun. In the race's closing laps, Shepherd was on the point with Elliott vainly trying to pass. Shepherd's crew didn't want any more cautions, but Ken Schrader pounded the wall, bringing out one more yellow flag and bunching the field. Back under green for the 5-lap sprint to the checkers, Earnhardt was back in the hunt and tried everything to overtake the leader. But at the line, Shepherd, in an unsponsored car running a limited schedule, played David to everyone else's Goliath. Terry Labonte, Darrell Waltrip, and Elliott were next across the line. That makes 4 different winners in 4 different car makes so far in '86. Parity has returned to Winston Cup racing. This is Mark Allen reporting.
We'll televise the next 3 Winston Cup races live. The High Banks of Bristol first, Sunday, April 6th at 1 o'clock Eastern Time.
The early season points show 2 very familiar names on top already, Waltrip and Labonte. In the rapidly moving Dyguard situation, Willie T. Ribb's Atlanta debut never came. The team says the Ford Thunderbird just wasn't ready. Greg Sack's schedule will be limited after all, but no commitment to a particular body style. And he'll run several modified races at places like Oswego, New York. In the Dyguard front office, reportedly, Bill Gardner has asked brother Jim to step down.
Neil Bonnet, injured in last week's race, does not have a cracked bone in his left foot and is not expected to miss any races. The North Allen Kowicki has purchased his own team and inked his Daytona sponsor, Quincy's Steakhouse, for his Rookie of the Year quest. And IMSA's successful female driver, Patty Moise, will run 2 Grand National Sportsman events, Road Atlanta and Charlotte Super Speedway. David Ift will be crew chief.
Morgan Shepherd's win was a dream, long time in coming, come true. Through the 70s, a top sportsman driver, champion in 1980. He actually serviced in Winston Cup in 1970, but it wasn't full-time until '81. With the Stewart team, he won a short track race, then a sudden, uncharacteristic physical outburst, and the team broke up. The magic seemed to dim except for very brief glimmers. Soft-spoken, with an unusual hobby of disco roller skating, he kept campaigning. 10 different cars the last 2 years. Then Jack Beebe, himself at a crossroads, offered Morgan a chance.
I've never had no self-doubts in myself, but it's been real frustrating. You know, I've always felt like I was a good race car driver, but I've never been able to come up with the sponsorship to get me a top-notch ride.
They share their second victories with each other. It is, by the way, the 10th consecutive Winston Cup different winner.
The day before the Winston Cup race at Atlanta, ARCA teams invaded the mile-and-a-half speedway for the Dixie 300. The number 81 Monte Carlo on the pole is Awesome Dave Sosby from, yes, Dawsonville, Georgia. He's flanked by current points leader and defending champion of this event, Lee Raymond. As in previous years, many yellows. Roger Blackstock spun. So did Patty Simcoe after losing her brakes, but she avoided wall contact. There was great side-by-side racing. Here, Bobby Jackson, number 71, and Raymond are fender to fender. Walt Boland's tire went down, causing a turn 2 spin, but the 7th caution was the most serious. Buddy Boy spins in turn 1, and Bernie Robidart, driving relief for Ronnie Bates, slides up the track and head-on into the wall. He was released from the track hospital later. A flurry of pit activity. Bill Venturini's all-girl crew seemed a little confused at times, but they got the job done. As a matter of fact, they kept Bill on the lead lap, and Bill kept himself in contention for the win. He passed Sosby late in the race and took the checkered. The top 5, Sosby 2nd, Raymond was 3rd, Bob Shack 4th, and 5th was Scott Stovall.
In our next segment, the reign of Charles continues in modified.
ARCA 500K stock car race from Talladega, Alabama, followed by SportsCenter coming up at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. We'll have special reports from the Kentucky Derby, and then we've got NHL Stanley Cup hockey playoffs tonight at 8 p.m. The Rangers at Montreal in their playoff series. Playoffs in the NBA today. Let's take a look at the game that is in progress right now between Philadelphia and Milwaukee, and the Bucks are on top of that one as they head down the stretch, 98-96. It's in the 4th period. That series all tied 1-1. Somebody's going to come out of that with a 2-1 lead. We've got more sports to come, so stay with us.
This SportsCenter update is being brought to you by General Tire. For all the right reasons, you need General.
You're going to see a tire through the eyes of some of the country's best high-performance drivers. On the track and on the street. It's the tight-tracking, road-gripping General XP 2000H. Bred for racing, but born to run hard and sure on any road. If you've got a lot of car, you need a lot of tire. You need the General XP 2000H at your General Tire dealer now.
For all the right reasons, you need General's.
There was boxing in upstate New York today. A couple of heavyweights going at it. Mike Tyson undefeated, 19 straight knockouts going against James Quick Tillis. It went the full 10 rounds, and it went in a unanimous decision. Mike Tyson winning it, a unanimous decision over James Quick Tillis. SportsCenter tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Special reports from the Kentucky Derby. Now let's take auto racing.
Imagine being on location with ESPN at events from around the world, places you dream about. Now you can be there when ESPN takes you on World Tour. The next stop on the tour is the British Open, and your chance to be there with us in Scotland is your entry in the World Tour Sweepstakes. To enter, watch any of ESPN's golf events in May and June. Catch the World Tour winning slogan that will be announced during the event. Write it on a card with your name and address and mail to World Tour Sweepstakes, Post Office Box 1164, Ridgely, Maryland 21683. That's World Tour Sweepstakes, Post Office Box 1164, Ridgely, Maryland 21683. That entry will qualify you for the grand prize of a trip for 2 to the British Open. And it's only one stop on ESPN's World Tour.
ESPN, your #1 auto racing network, presents Auto Racing 86. Alabama International Motor Speedway near Talladega for the Permatex ARCA 500-kilometer race. The weather here, beautiful. Sunny skies, 75 degrees. The winds may be a problem. They're gusting up to 25 miles an hour and even higher at times. 37 cars and drivers are standing by for this test on this 2.6-mile tri-oval. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome to the world's fastest speedway. The cars have qualified at over 200 miles an hour for today's event. With me in the booth is Larry Newber, and Larry, as a matter of fact, 6 drivers in excess of 200.
Bob, not only did 6 drivers go over 200, but they went over it with ease, headed up by Ralph Jones out of Kentucky, who qualified at 203.5 miles an hour. It was a pretty stupendous run for ARCA race drivers. And together, they comprise, simply stated, without equivocation, the fastest field in the history of ARCA.
They've been running here at Talladega since 1969. Larry, what about the history of this race?
The ARCA history here at Talladega is very important to the history of this racetrack, but if you look at the record books, it also suggests that this is a race that can be a perilous one for ARCA race drivers. You know, many of these guys have full-time jobs Monday through Friday, and they make tremendous sacrifices to come down here and race on the weekends. Many of them have never even seen speeds of 180 miles an hour, and they come here to Talladega this week, and they're qualifying easily at 190 miles an hour. Whenever there is a significant jump in speeds, particularly at ARCA at Talladega for ARCA, it always raises some very interesting questions. And how it turns out is always a curious answer.
There are a variety of cars in today's race also. Some are brand new models, others are several years old. For more on that, we go to one of 2 pit reporters for today's event. Here is Jack Arute.
Indeed, there are a lot of makes and models in the starting field behind me here. In fact, the front of the grid shows a Ford on the inside and a Chevrolet product on the outside. But here's what's interesting about the front row. Both cars are used cars of sorts. The one on the inside, Ralph Jones's car, well, that's Bill Elliott's machine from 3-4 years ago. Actually, the Elliott people aren't sure how old the car is. It could be as much as 6 years old. The one on the outside, driven by Grant Adcox, well, it's brand new, 86 specs, but it's a car that was built by Waddell Wilson and his team back about 3 years ago when they competed on the circuit with GM products. With more information on all of this, in the middle of the field, let's go to my colleague, Dick Berggren.
Well, Jack, 3 of the fastest cars in the field are buried deep in the pack here. David Sosby, for example, did not take a good qualifying run. He had all kinds of trouble with his engine, carburetor trouble, ignition trouble. Even the rear main seal was leaking. But they've got their act together now, and they're going over 200 miles an hour. So, too, is Howard Rose, who managed to overcome ignition problems. He, too, is over 200. But the surprise of the day just may well be the guy that's starting at the very back of the pack, Davey Allison. He's got 5 laps in that car, and it's one of the fastest in the field. Bob?
We'll be looking for Davey to move through the field quickly. Today's race is being brought to you by Goodyear. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name. We'll return to Alabama International Motor Speedway and begin this 500-kilometer race in just a moment.
The 1985 NHRA Pro Stock champion, tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 1986 street version, tires, Goodyear Eagles. The 86 SCCA GT1 champion, tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 86 street version, tires, Goodyear Eagles. The 85 IROC champion, tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them.
Man has always been fascinated with speed. But in a sport where there is no margin for error, winning is more than a quest for speed. It's a measure of skill. Test of guts. And though NASCAR has changed through the decades, its spirit still rests on what men who race have always known. Not just the machine, it's the man who drives it. We're proud to be part of this great sport. Busch, the official beer of NASCAR.
It's one thing to say you fight friction. It's another thing to prove it. Kendall Motor Oil did. First, ordinary piston rings were plated with pure gold. Then, a prestigious independent laboratory ran them under stop-and-go driving conditions for 5,000 miles. The results? Look, Kendall protected the soft gold. A remarkable test only Kendall has taken. Now, doesn't that tell you something? Kendall Motor Oil, for protection worth its weight in gold.
Back at Talladega, Alabama for the ARCA 500-kilometer race, and here is a brief look at this course that they'll be competing on. It's a 2.66-mile tri-oval built in 1969, repaved in 79. Turns are banked at 33 degrees. There is an 18-degree dogleg here on the main stretch, and the width of the racetrack is 60 feet. Seating capacity 85,000 here at Talladega. Now let's introduce to you the starting lineup for today's race. On the pole, driving car number 92 will be Ralph Jones. He qualified at 203.536. Outside of row number 1, car number 2, Grant Adcox. In the second row, car number 25, driven by Bill Venturini. Outside will be Lee Raymond in car number 1. The third row has veteran Red Farmer driving car number 97 and David Simcoe in number 51. The fourth row, Scott Stovall from Fort Wayne, Indiana, driving car 0. Outside of row 4 will be Bob Breback in car number 34. The fifth row, Terry Pearson in 43 and Tom Ussery in number 70. In row number 6 will be Bobby Jacks in car 71 and Paul Hansen in number 7. The seventh row, Mark Gibson in car number 90 and Rick O'Brien in number 10. Row number 8, Keith Seegers in number 14 and Hoyt Choate in 66. The ninth row consists of Ronnie Bates in car number 3 and Bob Donner in 83. Row number 10, Gary Newfer in car number 4 and Howard Rose in 56. The 11th row will consist of David Sosby in car number 81 and Dick Skillen in number 60. The 12th row, Steve Moore in 76 and Patty Simcoe, female driver, in car number 54. The 13th row, Walt Bolden in 26 and Rick Jeffrey in 89. Row number 14, Andy Stone in 27 and Bill Ingram in 62. The 15th row, Joe Boer in 91 and John Todd in 16. Row number 16, Billy Flowers in 06 and Tom Meinberg in 98. In the 17th row, Sonny Gupta in 46 and J.D. McDuffie, a Winston Cup driver, driving car 77. In the 18th row will be Tom Bigelow, car number 96, and Burgess White in 59. And then in row number 19, the driver we referred to earlier, Davey Allison, in car number 75. The field is now in turn number 2 on the pace lap.
One car has gone behind the pit wall already. Keith Seegers, the Jacksonville, Florida driver, a broken oil line, one of his first entries ever in ARCA, and the day ends early. Also having a difficult time firing off was Terry Pearson, the Illinois driver, used to come from the dirt tracks. They had a hard time getting that thing going, but he's back on the field and in his place in the starting grid.
The number 54 car in today's race will be handled by Patty Simcoe.
Well, Patty is not a newcomer to super speedway racing. This is her third effort ever on a super speedway racetrack, but you got to figure there are some unknown questions for her, although she did look smooth in practice here this week.
The field now entering turn number 3 in the 33-degree banking. They are behind the pace car, but the pace car will be pulling off shortly, and we could get a start this time around.
One real quick note. The reason why Davey Allison is in this race is because Bob Shack, who normally drives that black, white, orange numbered 75, withdrew himself earlier this morning. The all-time leading race winner in ARCA, Bob Shack, making way for the all-time super speedway race winner, Davey Allison.
Bob Shack had qualified his car good enough for 14th starting position at 194.089, but elected instead to turn the car over to Davey Allison. The pace car swings into pit road. The field comes through the tri-oval. The starting line here is located beyond the tri-oval and near turn number 1. The field comes down, and the green flag is out. This 500-kilometer race, 312 miles, 117 laps around this 2.66-mile tri-oval underway. They head into corner number 1. We watch the field proceed through there, and everybody appears to be in good shape as they come out of corner number 2 and head down the backstretch.
Always anxious moments for any start at Talladega, but for the ARCA drivers, many of these guys have never experienced this type of feeling before. A lot of people have to have their hearts in their mouths, at least until the green flag drops. Everybody seems to be filtering out in pretty good form down the back straightaway through turns 3 and 4.
Speeds here probably in excess of 200 miles an hour as the field comes off of turn number 4 through the tri-oval for the very first time. Lap number 1 about to be completed. Here it is, the leader of the race as they cross the line is the number 2 car driven by Grant Adcox. Lee Raymond running in second place, and then a good battle back in third between our pole sitter Ralph Jones and Bill Venturini.
This is only the 4th race of the 1986 points champion, and we got trouble in turn 1. Somebody has skidded up along the outside wall in turn 1.
And now spins and hits the wall head on. That is car number 60, driven by Dick Skillen. Now, Dick attempted to make the Winston Cup portion of the racing weekend, however, was unable to, so he moved over to the ARCA race. There is also another car involved as it is sliding down the backstretch, but only one car, we believe, made significant contact with the outside barrier.
And I think you probably got an indication of how rapidly the cars are moving here, because we picked up the spinning car of Dick Skillen after the initial contact. That, I believe, is Joe Boer there, the number 91 car. He was not involved in that incident. Joe had to brake heavily to avoid what was going on, but we picked up the spinning Dick Skillen about halfway through that incident, and the car was still spinning wildly. There you see Davey Allison going by, and Skillen is already up along the outside wall.
Car losing control at the bottom of the racetrack, and Skillen hitting the wall nearly head on.
You can see after hitting the wall, the car's still caroming at least at 100+ miles an hour, spinning through turns 1 and turns 2 and down the 33-degree banking.
And we have another angle. We'll replay the incident once again.
Well, you can see there are at least 2 of the cars. Looks like Patty Simcoe was also involved in this. Patty got up along the outside wall, and I think it's the number 06 car, which was the 3rd car involved in that of Bill Flowers. This is a car, by the way, that's been one of the fastest rent-a-cars on the ARCA circuit. The car that, matter of fact, Keith Magnuson surprised everybody when he qualified and performed so well in a race here a year ago.
The yellow flag is out over Talladega Speedway for the first time this afternoon. We are about to complete lap number 3. The incident down in turn number 1 involving several cars. We'll have to clean that up before we can go green once again. And we will be back with more from Talladega after this.
When the big Q flows, America goes.
Hey, that truck runs. A Fisher & Son doesn't.
Only gets the big Q. Quaker State.
Well, you can depend on number 1.
Fuel pop, they start with Pennsylvania grade crude.
Nothing like Quaker State.
It's a one-of-a-kind formula. Stable viscosity, keeps the oil flowing, protecting, no matter what.
No substitute for quality. I got 2 great partners.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Ever dream of being a movie mogul and owning the hottest names in Hollywood on video cassette? Like Smokey and the Bandit, Jaws, Somewhere in Time, The Blues Brothers, Nighthawks, Animal House, The Sting, 20 fabulous MCA hits on video for only $24.95 each. So be a Hollywood biggie, like me. Just go down to your video store and say, hey, make me a movie mogul.
To Peerless Faucet, durability means solid brass, resilient copper, and stainless steel construction. It also means if you install your Peerless washerless faucet today, it will not only still be working in the year 2001, it will still be under warranty. Peerless do-it-yourself faucets. Install in no time and last a long time.
Presenting the Four-Trax 200SX from Honda. It's so much fun. Some people can't wait to ride one. The Four-Trax 200SX from Honda. More fun than you've ever dreamed of.
Right here at Talladega, Alabama tomorrow, we'll present the Winston 500 for Winston Cup cars and talk about speed. Bill Elliott on the pole for that race at over 212 miles an hour, and the entire field of 40 cars is qualified at over 202. so it should be an absolutely unbelievable afternoon of racing. Join us live for it tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Central.
Bob, one other brief pit note. You saw the name Tom Bigelow on the starting lineup before we started this race. Tom was unfortunately unable to get out under the starting grid. He was here this weekend, attempted to qualify yesterday. They had some engine problems. They thought that perhaps they could get that car together to compete in the race today, but it just wasn't in the cards. Yes, that is the same Tom Bigelow of the Midwest Sprint Car, Midget, and Championship Dirt Car fame. There is Tommy Meinberg, the driver from the Cincinnati area who's into the pit area. Bigelow's going back up home to do sprint car racing this weekend. Failed to qualify here.
Let's go down to Jackaroo.
Now, under this caution period, a bunch of these guys, or at least a few of them that started in the back, are coming in to change tires. Why they do that, gentlemen, is because around this surface, when they went through the potential debris, they might have cut a tire, even though they're still actually inflated because of the inner liners. They wanted to come in here. They're not going to lose that many positions. Change all 4 tires. That's the case with Tom Meinberg as this crew continues to work on the right-hand side, now moving to the left-hand side of the car. They'll exchange all 4 Goodyear tires, take them back out. He started 33rd, so he's not going to lose that much time.
Meinberg from Cincinnati, Ohio, driving the Gertie Ensign Chevrolet, and you can see the work being completed on the driver's side. Meanwhile, the wrecked car of Dr. Dick Skillen, number 60, is on the hook and being taken off of the racetrack, but cleanup continues down in the turn number 2 area. That was one of the newer cars that is racing here this afternoon at Talladega. And with a closer examination of that, we go now to this piece, and here is Jackaroo.
In the past, in the Automobile Racing Club of America, you needed a car like this to be competitive. A 1985 Chevrolet Monte Carlo would get the job done in the past. 1 or 2-year-old cars were generally handed down from the Winston Cup Brigade and given to the ARCA competitors so that they could have a competitive life of 4, maybe as many as 6 more years of competition. But in 1986, you need one of these cars, an exact replica of the car that competes on the Winston Cup circuit. It's a 1986 Chevrolet Monte Carlo because ARCA has now upgraded their rules so that the competitors are running cars exactly like their Winston Cup brothers. This car is exactly like a car you'd see in competition on Sunday, with one exception. These guys are allowed to use roller cams. Winston Cup competitors cannot. So you could run this car on Saturday, conceivably, and still put it in the field for Sunday.
And we will be here, as we said, for that race live tomorrow, and we anticipate just an exciting race, to say the least.
Bob, we really do. These cars, by the way, are just a little bit lighter also than Winston Cup cars, but as we have seen in the past, they can be transformed quite easily and be competitive with the Winston Cup race cars.
All right, we have 5 laps completed. Only 1 has been completed under green, however. The cleanup continues over in turn number 1. We'll return with more in a moment from Talladega.
Never seen nothing like it. Landed over that hill, moved around some, and then just jerked off. They all have this one big eye, and they make this humming sound.
Introducing the Honda Fat Cat. It's got an electric starter and no clutch, so it's easy to ride. And when it comes to fun, there's nothing like it on Earth.
They come from Mars.
I don't need this from out of town.
The Fat Cat. It's a whole new animal.
Mighty Auto Parts. Tough. Dependable. Backed by a mighty guarantee. Next time, go with a mighty pro. He knows what it takes to keep your car in shape.
It takes a mighty Martin to please a pro. Mighty.
Sunday, live NASCAR thrills from the world's fastest speedway on ESPN. The Winston 500 is the second jewel in the Winston Cup bonus series. Jeff Bodine needs a win at Talladega to keep his $1 million dream alive. Then, a prestigious tennis title is on the line at the U.S. Clay Court Championships men's final. Sunday night at 8 Eastern Time, the road to the Stanley Cup continues with Game 2 of the Campbell Conference Championship, live on ESPN.
Well, I'm with Dick Skillen. Dick, you all right?
Yes, thank you.
What happened?
I was on the outside passing some slower traffic, and apparently a car down in the bottom groove ducked down in, pushing the middle car up. forcing me up into some loose gravel up near the very top of the track.
Well, the car's pretty well beat up, but most important, the driver is okay.
And there were at least 3 other cars involved in that incident. Bill Ingram's car 62 has been pulled back into the pit area. So is Patty Simcoe's number 54. And Bob Daughter in 83 spun, but he is continuing in the race. Now, the number 14 car that Larry mentioned as having not been able to start, Keith Seegers, has returned to the race, and so he is in competition. Now, one of the drivers making the most significant move in the early stages of this race is this man. The number 81 car driven by David Sosby started 22nd, and at the end of 1 lap, he was 11.
Bob Sosby has had a brief career as far as many of the ARCA career drivers who are in this race, but he's had a habit of running up near the front. He has led something like 75% of the races he's ever been in his career, less than 15 events. But he's been very fast. He was waiting to get the first pole, which he got earlier this year, and he's now waiting for the first win. Yeah, maybe today.
And one of the drivers that we have noticed falling back somewhat at the start of the race, Ralph Jones, our pole sitter, in number 92. He has fallen down to 4th position and was about to lose another one when the yellow came out. The green, meanwhile, flies over the Talladega Motor Speedway, and the race resumes with your leader, Grant Adcox. Behind him is Lee Raymond in car number 1.
Now, that brief caution flag, I would suggest, was a real advantage for Davey Allison. Remember that we heard before the start of the race that Davey had less than 5 laps in this car, and very few of them, if any of them, were in the 190-plus category. We know this is an accomplished team, a very potentially strong race car. So Davey had a chance to make sure the seat was adjusted properly, and the rear view mirror was looking in the right direction, and saw where all the switches and the gauges were during that caution flag. Interesting, nice opportunity for young Mr. Allison.
Into the tri-oval once again. Adcox still your leader. They begin to string out just a little bit now. Now, Jones has moved back up into 2nd position, so his falling back obviously is not a serious problem. He's already back up to 2nd. Raymond dropped back to 3rd position. Then comes Red Farmer running 4th, and Bill Venturini 5th.
The last couple of years, Bob, on the ARCA trail for Jones.
Oh, and the leader is pulling to the inside. Is this a problem, or, well, I guess not. He was just trying to break the grass.
Grant Adcox trying to use some of that Winston Cup experience. He knows how important drafting can be, particularly at the sub-200-mile-an-hour speeds here at Talladega. Drivers tell us that above 200, yeah, there is a difference, but Adcox is trying to break away. Seems to be a little early in the event to be trying to make that type of maneuver, but you never know what's going on inside of a race driver's head.
They cross the stripe and complete lap number 10.
We are commenting that Ralph Jones' career in ARCA the last couple of years has sort of been like the Renaissance for Ralph. He surfaced at a very young age, about 10, 15 years ago, actually did some Winston Cup racing, was involved in a spectacular fiery crash at Darlington, and then you didn't see much from Ralph for a while. In the last couple of years, he's come on strong in ARCA.
Bill Venturini has moved up into 4th position. There's Lee Raymond driving car number 1, Riverside Auto Parts Chevrolet. He is 3rd. The leader, Grant Adcox, putting a little bit of racetrack between himself and 2nd place, Ralph Jones. Boy, every time he goes down the backstretch, he pulls that car to the very inside of the racetrack in an attempt to break the draft.
You've been watching Richard Petty and Neil Bonnet. We also have an unofficial report that the number 77 car, at least racing under the number 77 today, of J.D. McDuffie has pulled into the pits. J.D., of course, an entrant in tomorrow's Winston Cup race also, and J.D. was able to muster a starting car for today's race also.
Now, while we watch the leader, Grant Adcox, will tell you that David Sosby in car 81 has moved to 6th, and Davey Allison has moved to 11th position. Here's 1st and 2nd. Ralph Jones now in 2nd. A good battle for 3rd shaping up there as Bill Venturini begins to put some heat on Lee Raymond. Raymond in the red car and Bill Venturini in the white car. They're through turn number 4 onto the tri-oval.
Lee Raymond in the orange number 1 is the defending champion of ARCA, and right behind him in that white car, Venturini, he said his car felt the best it ever has in practice late yesterday afternoon. And look who's right behind them, knocking at the door in that black number 81.
He is in 5th position. David Sosby, car number 81, moving up from his 21st starting position. I think he has the fastest car on the racetrack right now.
Bob, I don't think there's any question that right now Sosby is the star of the field. This is another one of the 2nd-generation drivers. How many tens of 2nd-generation drivers are there in automobile racing today? His father, Gober, once won an ARCA race. Matter of fact, back in Jacksonville, Florida in the 1950s.
Now Sosby right behind Bill Venturini in turn number 3 and 4. There are a couple of car lengths between the two, but he is obviously in Bill Venturini's draft. Here they come off the 4th corner onto the tri-oval once again. Adcox, meanwhile, has continued to open up a little bit of daylight between himself and second place, crossing the stripe once again.
Here comes Sosby. Sosby is moving up, and not only is he moving up on 4th, 3rd, and 2nd, but as Bob mentioned, he is running faster than everybody on the racetrack, including the leader, Grant Adcox.
Well, we hear that there may be a problem on the Bill Venturini car. More on that with Jack Arute.
Well, there is a problem, but what you're looking at is a cracked windshield that's waiting to be placed in Bill Venturini's car. It seems they don't have a complete windshield to put in. They're going to put this cracked one in for one that's cracked real bad in the car right now. You can't do it in under less than 30 seconds, so it could cost them dearly unless there is a caution flag and they can do it under the luxury of the yellow.
And a cracked windshield could certainly create problems for the driver, because with these cars going as fast as they are, the windshield could just disintegrate in a matter of moments.
Venturini, who won one of the recent races on the ARCA Trail at Atlanta, it was his 6th career win. He's among the top 5 in terms of the active drivers of career wins. Had a lot of confidence coming into today's race. Told you just a couple moments ago that he said yesterday's late afternoon practice session was the best he has ever gotten around Talladega. He said, I don't think I'm going to lead this race. I'm going to sit back and somebody, it's
That's Bill Venturini with smoke from the car and pulling to the inside, and the yellow flag is out. The pace car will come on to the racetrack. Bill Venturini's car has gone sour on him here on lap number 14 as he was running in the top 5.
Bill Venturini, who said that he won about $10,000 in terms of prize money when he won Atlanta, but by the time he and his wife paid all the bills, he had like $700 or $800 left. I don't know if you'd call that a profitable weekend or not, but Venturini's weekend and day here seems to be over.
Well, it's a hose problem on that car. He is certainly off the pace to the inside of the racetrack, but it is not an engine problem, simply a hose situation that could be repaired in the pit area. We'll watch that. The yellow is out, however, for the second time this afternoon, and we have completed 15 of 117 laps. That will make up this 500-kilometer ARCA event here at Alabama International Motor Speedway. They're the leaders down the backstretch under caution. Grant Adcox is your leader, and running in second position is Ralph Jones. We'll continue our coverage in just a moment from Alabama International Motor Speedway.
Excellence, excitement, Pontiac.
Looking for excitement combined with the mark of excellence? Come to Moorman Pontiac. 50 years of quality sales in the area's only Pontiac Outstanding Service Excellence Award winner. Professional salespeople and easy financing help you get that Pontiac feeling. So when it's excitement you're looking for, stop in and see your friends at Moorman Pontiac on Shoup Mill Road between Main and Riverside Drive. Remember,
We build excitement. Pontiac.
Smokeless in the pouch is a good idea, but the taste can be dry as a West Texas wind. Not new Renegades. They're packed with darker, richer, moister tobacco. And there's a lot more than these. So all you taste is moist, satisfying tobacco. Not the pouch. Bigger, moister. With a taste that blows the others away.
At his last tune-up, Jim McGill forgot to change something very important, his engine belts. After 4 years, belts can break anytime. So don't take chances. Next tune-up, get Gates belts. More mechanics install Gates and more people rely on them than any other belt made. Remember, if your car's 4 years old, get Gates before it's too late.
And the oil is leaking, they think, from a hose. It's not a problem with a blown engine, and they feel that they can go to work and repair all of the problems that Bill Venturini has encountered here in the early going. One thing of note, look at the crew. They're all girls, or most of them. A lot of tough workers here on that side of the wall for Bill Venturini.
Well, male mechanic is looking at the engine, but the people who change the tires and do most of the pit work, as Jack indicated, are females. This appears to be a problem that can be corrected, although they're taking a close look at the situation down there in the Venturini car.
Well, of course, all the caution flags have kept everybody on the same lap with the leader, but here's an unofficial brief rundown of the top 10. Adcox is in there, of course, followed by Jones, and Raymond Sosby, as we told you, is running in fourth. Farmer now moves up to fifth. Dave Simcoe is sixth as we continue to watch the work on Bill Venturini's car. Davey Allison seventh, Scott Stovall eighth, Paul Hansen, somewhat of a surprise, in ninth, and Bobby Jacks in 10th position.
There's the cracked windshield that Jack referred to earlier. A lot of conversation and a lot of head knocking going on down there in the Bill Venturini pits as they attempt to get that car back on the racetrack.
And they are going a lap down, Bob. The leaders are now going through the tri-oval and putting Bill, one of the pre-race favorites, one lap in arrears.
The yellow remains out. 17 laps have been completed. We've got 100 more to go.
You know, it's difficult to assess without doing some Monday morning quarterbacking exactly how long it should have taken to make repairs, but this is somewhat of a change from what you would normally see in a Winston Cup race. Cars pulling in and out of the pits maybe several times on one yellow flag, one single car to complete repairs.
Well, let's go down to the pit area once again and try to check with the man himself, the driver of the car, Bill Venturini. Once again, here's Jack Arute.
Well, there's a lot of frantic action taking place right now on the side of pit wall. Bill, what's wrong with the engine?
Looks like we broke an oil line, but we had shattered the windshield on the second lap. As long as we're going to be down a couple laps changing a broken oil line, we're going to change the windshield at the same time.
Well, there's the story from Venturini's pit. Let's go to Dick Bergeron for more action.
Well, the two leaders are watching each other to see what they're going to do. Grant Adcock's crew said they don't think they're going to come in, but they're going to keep an eye on Ralph Jones, who's in second spot. Ralph Jones guys say, well, they're going to bring him in if Adcock comes in. So it's a game of wait and see down here on pit road.
You can see on the racetrack that some oil dry has been put down because of the broken oil line on the car driven by Bill Venturini. So that is the reason why we are still under yellow. The cleanup on the racetrack is continuing.
Bob, everybody figures that it's going to take about 2 pit stops at a minimum. Yellow flags might make it possible to stop more times, but one load of fuel should go a minimum of 33 laps, maybe a maximum of 38, 39. So there's no fuel question yet. Tires are not have been a question all week long, so I may not see these pit stops.
As you know, ESPN has been bringing you a tremendous amount of Stanley Cup hockey activity, and because of that, this race, the IMSA LA Times Grand Prix, has been pushed back. The air date is at 7:30 this Tuesday night, and it is an unbelievably exciting race and certainly one of the most spectacular, awesome crashes perhaps in the history of auto racing took place in that race. Fortunately, no injuries, and besides that, it was good competition. We urge you to watch the LA Times Grand Prix IMSA race at 7:30 Eastern Time this Tuesday night. The number 91 car of Joe Boer is also in the pit area. Joe came here this weekend from West Lafayette, Indiana, without a ride, picked up this machine, and he was all the way up to 10th position, but has come in for a stop, hopefully just a routine stop. He's moving once again.
And particularly because he had to brake very hard during that first or second lap incident up in turns 1 and 2. Boer did a tremendous job coming on, and maybe that car is working to perfection, and maybe stopping here under the yellow flag is certainly not going to hurt him that much. But as Bob indicated, he had moved up to a challenging position to the top 10.
Some other cars have come in for a pit stop, including Gary Newfer in car number 4, who started in 20th position. And so we are still under yellow. This has been a rather extensive yellow because of oil on the racetrack laid down by Bill Venturini, and they continue to work, by the way, on that car in the pit area. The number 97 car is driven by, I guess you could term this guy a veteran. He's been around a few years, Red Farmer.
Well, does it count to be a veteran if you won your first race? I said won your first race in 1949. Yeah, I think so, as the graphic indicates that in 1984 he won an ARCA race here at Talladega.
The editor of Stock Car Racing magazine has been following the career of Red Farmer throughout it. Dick, what can you tell us about this tremendous race driver?
Well, Bobby's had quite a weekend for sure. Last night at Talladega Short Track, just 4 miles from here, he put his car on the pole, he led every lap, he won the event. That's a good start for today. On the other hand, boy, has he got his hands full today. 10 days ago, the car he was driving was sitting out in a field in Bobby Allison's backyard. He said, hey, Bobby, can I borrow that thing and put it together for Talladega? He said, sure. So they borrowed the car, then they had to borrow a seat, borrow some fuel leakage, borrow some steering parts for it, because all that had been cannibalized by Allison. Then he went out and he borrowed an engine. Well, he got here with his borrowed car, his borrowed equipment and so forth, and he discovered he didn't have any tires. So we went out and borrowed some tires. And the tires on that car right now, some of them are a full year old. One more item on that car is borrowed. Red Farmer's helmet. It wouldn't pass technical inspection. He had to borrow another helmet.
One of the original Alabama gang members, Red Farmer from Hueytown. Now we go back down to the other end of the pit area. Here is Jack.
Just to update you on the condition of Bill Venturini's car, this is the faulty piece. Taking a look at it, it's an oil line. Braided, rubber on the inside, it came apart, put Venturini out of the race. But not for long. They've just about completed the repairs. He's going back out, and it looks like, gentlemen, we're about ready to go back to green flag racing anyways.
We are indeed. The field now is at the end of the backstretch, and they have been given the word by the starters that we will go green next time around. That will be on lap number 20. Grant Adcox started outside of row number 1, having qualified at 2:02.401 and has led every lap to this point.
Winner at Daytona earlier this year. Just a word about fuel now. These lengthy caution flags could extend that first window for the fuel stop. But remember, many of these ARCA teams, crews, and drivers, they don't have very much experience in this type of situation. So, got to be a lot of question marks. How far can we go before we have to stop?
The green flag comes out once again, and the Permatex ARCA 500-kilometer race from Alabama International Motor Speedway is under green once again, and Bill Venturini returns to the racetrack. He's the car on the far inside of your screen.
Bill Venturini moving out after losing about 3 or 4 laps. We don't have an official count, but Venturini's chances for winning here are gone, but he has the ability to run up front, so we may see that number 25 a little later in the race this afternoon.
Look at Adcox again go to the low side of the racetrack. This time Ralph Jones follows him as Lee Raymond in car number 1, the third place machine, stays high, and so does David Sosby. There are the first 4, now 5 cars in the banking 33 degrees in turn number 4. Running in 5th position there is Red Farmer. Here they come once again.
As Adcox clicks off one more lap, we get official word that Venturini, for those of you who are interested, is 4 laps down. So Bill really has his work cut out for him. But you never know. If we have an excessive number of caution flags, if he could get out in front every time, if he turns out to be the fastest running car on the racetrack, which is altogether possible, he may still have a long, long outside chance. We were just looking at the black number 81 of David Sosby. Curiously, Bob, he seems to have stabilized. You see him drafting, going down the backstretch there, following as closely as possible to the defending champion, Lee Raymond. Is Sosby not showing everything he has the potential of? You know what I think? I think that's it. I think that Sosby has ascended to the point where he wants to, at least at this juncture of the race.
But at the same time, the leader, Grant Adcox, has been able to pull away from everybody else. Now, not too far, but he has pulled away by 10 or 12 car lengths just about every time the green has remained on for any distance. Ralph Jones is running in second. That's Lee Raymond, then Sosby, and then behind him would be Red Farmer. And they're running, Larry, at 202.6 miles an hour, and that is almost as good as they qualified.
That really is, and it's kind of amazing because Adcox, as you mentioned, is basically doing it by himself. If you get in a 4 or 5 car draft here at Talladega, historically, it will give you some more speed, but Adcox is not completely away from the draft, but he's not utilizing as much of an advantage as we have seen other people who run at the point, run at the lead path. Adcox is turning those 202-mile-an-hour laps basically on his own.
There are 7 cars that are running in the lead draft. Grant Adcox, then Jones, then Raymond, then Sosby, then Red Farmer. David Simcoe is also running in the line there in 6th spot.
And then Davey Allison, the man who started dead last. There is 2nd and 3rd. Remember, Allison had no time to practice in this car. You're looking at second running Ralph Jones, 3rd running Lee Raymond, and Adcox is continuing to use that low line down the backstretch.
Trying to break the draft from everybody else and make sure that he has a big lead on everyone. And I'll tell you, he is impressive here in the early going. He's pretty much pulling away from everybody else.
He really is, and just at the very tail of this line, there is Davey Allison. Well, he's no longer at the tail of this line. He has gotten around his neighbor, Red Farmer, and moved up to 6th position, and Davey Allison, it's pretty obvious, he's looking frontward. Davey Allison is trying to assert himself and move up in Bob Shack's number 75.
He is right behind David Simcoe from Clarkston, Michigan in car number 51. That's the next driver that he'll be attempting to pass and pick up the spot on. They race down the backstretch, really standing on the accelerator here and moving above 200 miles an hour. But for the moment, Davey Allison content to stay behind Simcoe as Simcoe begins to act like he would like to pass the car right in front of him, driven by Sosby.
And while all this is going on, Adcox continues just to barrel along way out front. Allison, by the way, is by far and away the most outstanding ARCA driver on the super speedways in recent years. That in terms of laps led. Nobody else has led more than 10 different races. Allison has led 12, and for a grand total of 410 laps on the super speedways. The number 66 car, Hoyt Schote, is sitting quietly in the pit area. He won a race, by the way, the only one to have won 2 this year at Paducah, Kentucky just a year ago. Another example of another short track driver who has made some accomplishments back home and tried to move up to ARCA.
That last lap was turned at 202.7 miles an hour, so the last lap was even faster than the previous. They are setting an awesome pace here in this event. 202 miles an hour is the speed that the leader, Grant Adcox, is running. Choate moves his car behind a wall. It looks like an early out for that driver.
I got to tell you, Bob, you got to assume that that line that Adcox is using down the backstretch is working for him. He is able to keep distance between himself and the rest of the field, the rest of those 6 cars that are running in the top 7, and Adcox is running all by himself.
Let's see if he does it this time. He comes off of corner number 2 onto the flat backstretch. And once again, yes, he moves to the extreme inside of the racetrack, almost pulling the car off of the track onto the grass, but making sure, of course, that he doesn't. Trying to get away from everybody else, and Grant Adcox is certainly doing it well.
I'm sure it's an intentional move because it couldn't be a wind or any drafting factor or anything like that, because it's affecting no one else, and so far it seems to be working for Grant.
26 laps completed in the 117-lap Permatex ARCA 500 from Alabama International Motor Speedway. Join us when we return.
Quality has always been a tradition at Anheuser-Busch, and the tradition continues with another in our 5 Stein series of Budweiser ceramics. This handcrafted Stein features 2 traditional scenes showing the skill and craftsmanship of the 17th century brewmaster. Each Stein is individually numbered and comes in its own uniquely crafted box. A great gift for birthdays, Father's Days, holidays, or any time you want to give a gift of lasting quality. These Steins are now available at a special price of $29.95 plus $2.95 for shipping and handling. To order, call 1-800-821-7700. The Budweiser Ceramic Stein stands 9 inches tall and features a handsome pewter-like lid. Other editions of the Budweiser Stein are available in limited quantities. Order now. There will be no reproduction of the series. Call 1-800-821-7700 or send check or money order to Stein Offer, Department PPG, 1 Bush Place, St. Louis, Missouri, 63118.
Some say he came from a distant planet. Others say he's from Dayton.
Tastes like tough guy.
He brought an army with him.
Tune-up.
Here, sir.
Smooth sail.
Yo.
Motor honey.
Here, TG.
About face.
Equipped with the trusty double money-back guarantees, they fearlessly fight
company.
The enemies of your car.
Take 'em. Tastes like tough guy.
The King-Side Army's available at auto departments throughout the universe.
Well done, troops.
Look for the tough guy. Or use your magic decoder ring.
Tomorrow, join ESPN at the world's fastest superspeedway for live coverage of the Winston 500. It's 200-mile-an-hour excitement as NASCAR's top drivers fight for a share of the $500,000 purse. The Winston 500 from Talladega, live tomorrow on ESPN.
Back at Talladega, there you can see the cars that have dropped out of the race in the early going. 31 laps have been completed, and already those drivers out of competition. On the racetrack, we have Grant Adcox still leading, and he has opened up about a 2.13 second lead over second place Ralph Jones. And when you consider that he's traveling the length of a football field in less than a second, that's a pretty healthy lead.
Yeah, it really is, Bob. I'm a little surprised that he hasn't been able to open up as much as he has. We're still in that period of the first pit stop, and normally in that period of the race, you kind of test your car. You can see the drama of that lead that Adcox has over the rest of the cars in the lead draft. There they are, headed up by Ralph Jones, 6th through 7th. And normally you don't try to bury everybody in the first lap unless that car is feeling perfect. And Adcox obviously is in a situation where he's feeling very comfortable out there. We told you he won an ARCA race earlier this year, and ARCA has been a little gold mine for him. Grant has found the going pretty easy for him. Continue to watch Jones and Raymond. And by the way, Adcox doesn't know yet whether or not he's going to follow the circuit when it goes up north to go for the championship.
There's the average after 30 laps, 134.57. Now that slow simply because we have had two rather lengthy caution periods. But as far as the speeds on the track at this moment, it's over 200 miles an hour for the leader. The leader well out in front, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 running, however, in a draft behind him. Ralph Jones in car number 92, the pole sitter for this race in the Bill Elliott purchased car that was prepared by the Elliott crew. And behind him in third position is Lee Raymond in car number 1. Then Sosby, then Davey Allison, then David Simcoe, and Red Farmer.
We'll also add that lead of 2-3 seconds looks significant on the racetrack because Lee Raymond loses a little bit of ground to Ralph Jones there. But with pit stops coming up, 2 or 3 seconds may not be a big lead at all, particularly if they happen to come under a yellow. But again, we're talking about relatively inexperienced crews, although each year they're gaining more and more experience, becoming more and more proficient because they're running more superspeedway gigantic races like this. But 2 or 3 seconds in the pit area for an ARCA race, it is not a healthy lead, particularly at this stage.
You know, Larry, we talked about in the opening the fact that there have been, quite honestly, some very horrifying and in times serious crashes in this race. However, at least in the first 33 laps, 34 laps, everybody is moving very nicely in excess of 200 miles an hour, and except for that crash that we had in the early going, everybody seems to be handling themselves very well.
Bob, they really are. Everybody is here for their own personal reasons, and maybe a little more on that just a bit later. Bob, I think you got something for us there.
Let's go down to the pit area and Dick Berggren, who's in the Grant Adcox pit.
And I'm with Pete Card. He is the crew chief. Pete, your driver is running the car very low on the speedway. Why? Why is he doing this unusual line?
Well, I believe that's the way he likes to have it set up. He's comfortable down here. And usually the low line is the quickest way around the track.
What are you going to do for pit stops? How soon will you come in for fuel?
About 4 laps, if I can get out of here.
Okay, they want to go back and get this car ready for a pit stop.
And we have a car on fire. That's Bobby Jacks with some fire and now smoke coming out from the rear portion of that race car. He gets it off the course so as not to lay down any oil on it, but Bobby Jacks is going to be out of this race.
Well, the inside of that car, you can see, is completely filled with steam. Jacks is out in a big hurry. We've seen Bobby run a number of times. The yellow flag coming out, by the way. The fire looks like it continues to simmer. Bobby checking the condition of his right leg. And I would guess that a lot of people are going to use this opportunity to come in to the pits for a pit stop.
Bobby was running in 9th position when this incident occurred, and it occurred as he came down the backstretch at high speed.
Bob, yesterday afternoon, I watched Bobby Jacks late in the afternoon reconstructing the second engine of the week. They lost one earlier, and the fire is continuing to rage, and Bobby is signaling to safety crews to come over there. He wants to save that race car, and for Bobby, who's got a lot of personal funds in this machine, it's an important moment to try and save as much of the equipment as he possibly can. But as we were saying, it's been a tough week for engines for that particular team from Huber Heights. That's near Dayton, Ohio.
The third caution period of the afternoon comes out on lap number 36. It is because of a fire in the car driven by Bobby Jacks. He has it off the course, however, and as you can see, the firemen are there, and everything appears to be okay, and Bobby Jacks appears to be uninjured.
You know, we've had some fun with Bobby in years past on ESPN telecasts. He's had some body work that seemingly has been on the car for 3, 4, 5 years. It's lasted a long time, and Bobby's made one car work good on dirt, work good on pavement, work good on flat tracks, work good on high banks. I got to tell you, he had one of the finest looking pieces of machinery in the ARCA pits this weekend here. Brand new sheet metal, and it did look nice with the old traditional colors.
Well, Grant Adcox, crew chief, indicated that it was time for them to come in for a pit stop, so this yellow caused by the fire in Bobby Jack's car really comes at a very good time as the leaders are all making pit stops.
watch and see how everybody plays this. That nice lead that Adcox had wiped off by the yellow flag, as we indicated. Everybody will come in, and now under reduced speed conditions, it gives everybody an opportunity to take a little bit of a sigh of relief. Although the first one out, they know that they'll have the lead when the green flag comes out again. Adcox did not have much of a margin. There's Adcox on top, and the second running Ralph Jones on the bottom. The split screen showing you both crews going to work, and everybody working as hard. It looks like Grant's crew is just about done. He's going to get that advantage coming out of the pits.
Yeah, they're going to change rubber on the left side of the car also, but it is very important who comes out first, and out first is Davey Allison in car 75. We don't know whether or not they changed all 4 tires on that car or not, but he is back in the race as Adcox and Jones remain on pit road. There is Davey Allison back out there on the track.
Significantly earlier than the other leaders. Both Jones and Adcox still to this moment are in the pits, and Allison is already onto the backstretch. Finally, Ralph Adcox gets away. Ralph Jones looks like he's getting ready to go now. We told you about the relative inexperience of the ARCA crews on pit stops like this. They're still working on Ralph's car. And the curious thing, Bob, that I would like to know, we did not have a chance to check on it because it happened late this morning, just before the starting grid took off. I wonder how many Grand National Winston Cup people are in Davey Allison's pit crew.
Everybody now has moved back out onto the racetrack, at least the first 7. And Grant Adcox in car number 2 did not have a particularly good stop, but remember, we are under caution, and so the field will be bunching up here behind the pace car. But Davey Allison had the best stop, and he is going to be the leader when the green comes out once again. 37 laps have been completed. There once again is Grant Adcox, who had led every lap of this race until he came in for the pit stop. And that's the reason why we're yellow. Bobby Jack's car igniting in a ball of fire.
The 85 NHRA Pro Stock Champion. Tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 86 T-Bird Turbo Coupe. Tires, Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. The 85 Showroom Stock A Champion. Tires, Goodyear Eagles. The 86 Nissan 300ZX Turbo. Tires, Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them.
The big day is coming. The Kingsford National Barbecue Season. Now opening in backyards everywhere.
At his last tune-up, Jim McGill forgot to change something very important. His engine belts. After 4 years, belts can break anytime. So don't take chances. Next tune-up, get Gates belts. More mechanics install Gates and more people rely on them than any other belt made. Remember, if your car's 4 years old, get Gates before it's too late.
Absorbing Junior invites all hard-working Americans to rub it in.
Rub it in, rub it in. Rub it in, rub it in.
Absorbing Junior, the big rub-it-in solution for sore, aching muscles. With deep, penetrating action that gets under your skin fast for soothing relief.
Put it on my back, my cycle really act.
Absorbing Junior.
Rub it in, rub it in.
Tonight, the New York Rangers and Montreal Canadiens hit the ice for Game 2 of the Wales Conference Final. Live tonight on ESPN.
Well, of course, we're bringing you the most extensive coverage ever in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we'll resume our coverage with the Rangers-Montreal game. That's tonight at 8 o'clock on ESPN. The Rangers and Montreal, and then, of course, we're covering the other series. The question mark, can Calgary continue to do as well as they have done early? Stay with us for all the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, top 5 after 39 of 117 laps. There you can see them, and we are about to go green once again. Here we go, the race on. The leader, Davey Allison. David Sosby running second, and the man on the move is Grant Adcox.
Boy, did he get a tremendous jump. Adcox immediately went to the extreme high lane and passed about 6 cars, and that is he in that white car moving into second position.
Making a challenge already on Davey Allison. Adcox to the inside of the racetrack where he likes to run, and he just blows by Davey Allison and retakes the lead. An impressive performance by Grant Adcox.
Well, Well, that certainly answers the question as to exactly how strong is Grant Adcox. There we're zooming in on third and fourth. David Sosby in the number 1 car of Lee Raymond. You saw that car make a big jump as at about 195 miles an hour. It squirted around turn number 4 and hit one of those bumps, probably over one of the tunnels.
And Ralph Jones right behind Lee Raymond, drafting him in 4th position. Field moving through the tri-oval once again.
The black flag came out. It looked like, Bob, for 2 people. I don't know exactly the reason why. The start, it was a little ragged, but didn't look particularly rough. But we'll keep our eyes peeled on pit lane and see exactly who comes in. But I think the black was given to 2 separate cars.
We'll watch that as they come down next time. There is Sosby and Lee Raymond. And we understand that there is a loose windshield on the Scott Stovall car, number 0. He's running back in about 9th or 10th position. Let's go down to Jack Worth for an observation in the pit area.
After watching and observing that last round of pit stops, gentlemen, they seemed inordinately long from my viewpoint. So we investigated and found out why. Unlike the Winston Cup cars that are so used to operating on super speedways, the ARCA competitors run here and Daytona. Well, as they begin to increase their knowledge of aerodynamics, they've streamlined their cars, and in doing so, they've lengthened the wheel wells. The wheel openings are much tighter than they were in the past. So if a driver comes in and hits the marks, but fails to put the steering wheel exactly dead even, then he won't be able to get those tires, the big wide racing slicks, in, off, and another set back on without wrestling with the tires. Are you taking a look at Scott Stovall? The action underway there. They're going to replace his windshield. You can see them going to work there. Now, it's very simple, not like taking a windshield out of yours or my passenger car. There's 4 Zeus fasteners of sorts that twist off. You pull the entire windshield out, use some 200-mile-an-hour tape, duct it back up, and go back to 200-mile-an-hour racing.
Now you can see how rather easy it is to remove a windshield and replace it. Now, that is the car that was given the black flag last time around. Scott Stovall from Fort Wayne, Indiana, in car number 0. They've removed the broken windshield and are about to insert a new one.
This ARCA Talladega Supercar Permatex Supercar Series is an interesting one in that the sponsor actually has a lot of automotive additive products that are used and tested during the rigors of racing in ARCA. So for that matter, it makes for a very, very useful sponsorship.
Crossing the stripe once again as now they have gotten that new windshield in the Scott Stovall car and are buttoning it up.
Scott, by the way, was the youngest champion in the history of ARCA. A couple years ago when he was the national champion, it looks like they too have had to go to a used window. Once again, the difference in the dollars available between ARCA and Winston Cup racing. But Stovall was just 21 years of age when he won the ARCA National Championship. And it's interesting, he only has 1 career win, but he does have a habit of staying around to the very end of all these races. And Bob, we've been watching him a long time on ESPN. He first came up in like 1980.
When we first started doing racing here on ESPN, he was one of the guys we followed down in southern Indiana, Salem, and some of the other tracks. There is Grant Adcox, the leader. Davey Allison running second. Number 81, David Sosby is third. Then Lee Raymond. Behind him, Ralph Jones. And then the number 51 car of David Simcoe.
Some smoke in the tri-oval bringing out the yellow flag. Somebody high up along the wall, but I think he was just taking evasive action. I think it was Bobby Brevac. Brevac goes by. There he is on the screen. It was silent when he went by, Bob.
And Howard Rose also got a little high here in the tri-oval. He may have scraped the wall, but did maintain control. There is Rose in car number 56 going around Brevac, who's to the inside of the track. But this is our 4th yellow of the day.
Yeah, Bobby Brevac, who finished 6th late last year in November at Atlanta, looked like he was headed for his best ARCA season ever. There is Red Farmer taking an opportunity to come into the pits. Under yellow should not cost him a lap. He was able to stay on the lead lap, but looked like that Red was off the pace a little bit during that last brief green flag segment. Brevac has had bad luck since that 6th place finish at Atlanta last November. The reason why we talk about Atlanta last November is that officially that was the first race in the 1986 ARCA standings.
Taking a look at Red Farmer's stop, it will not be a mandatory or customary stop. The clutch has gone away on the number 97 Buick, and he's resting here up on the jack stands, trying to actually institute remedies that will be like Band-Aids on a big bad burn, because when you lose a clutch, it's going to be real tough coming in and out of the pits. You can stay at full song out on the racetrack, but it'll be problems all day.
Well, it's kind of a sad ending here for Red Farmer, who, as Jack indicated, worked so hard to put this car together for this weekend activity. He is moving once again back out onto the racetrack, but he's moving very slowly down pit road.
Bob, I was trying to figure out a few minutes ago, if you won your first race in 1949, what's that make you, about 41 or something?
Sure. Yeah. There's Bob Breback, car 34. Now, he was running 7th when his problems occurred. He's to the inside of the racetrack, and I'm not sure whether he's going to make it to pit road or not. The car is going very slowly through the 4th corner.
Bobby has gone back to his traditional, is that petty blue or sky blue? Whatever. Maybe it's Breback blue, blue and yellow colors, and he has most always in the past fields one of the finest looking cars on the ARCA field.
They've just completed the 48th lap out of 117. Grant Adcox remains the leader here at the Permatex ARCA 500 at Talladega.
If you're in the market for a new 1986 Ford truck, there's no better time or place to buy than right now at Bob Tatone Ford in Fairborn. Right now at Bob Tatone Ford, you can buy a brand new 86 Ford Ranger pickup for as little as $6,388 and save hundreds of dollars with 6.9% fixed rate financing. That's right, save hundreds with 6.9% fixed rate financing. Make your last stop your best stop with Dayton's leader. That's Bob Tatone Ford in Fairborn, your little Jeeper dealer.
Why put up with an ugly ceiling? Panel Town can help you change from this to this with beautiful Armstrong ceiling tiles. It's easy to do it yourself with help from Panel Town, and Armstrong has a style for any decor. Just bring in the dimensions of your ceiling and Panel Town will do the rest. Our expert staff will show you what you need and how to do it. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, and you'll have a whole new look for pennies per square foot. Come see the complete line of Armstrong ceilings in stock at all 3 Panel Town locations in Dayton and Springfield.
Bob Jenkins, Larry Newber, Dick Bergeron, and Jack Arute back at Alabama International Motor Speedway in Talladega for the Permatex ARCA 500-kilometer race. We are coming off our 4th caution of the afternoon and going green once again. All of the cautions, with the exception of one, have been for blown engines and that type of thing. Only one accident so far in the race. Dr. Dick Skillen into the outside wall in turn number 2, but he is okay. The star of the race so far has been Grant Adcox in car number 2, and he assumes the lead once again with Davey Allison trailing him in car number 75. And David Simcoe, who is running up in the top 10, has a very bad start and drops to the inside of the racetrack in turn number 2. A terrible break for David Simcoe, car 51.
Bob, I was just about to say that attrition has been pretty harsh on the field, but it hadn't really gotten into the top 7 or 8 people. But now we've lost Simcoe, apparently, and Red Farmer, each in the last minute and a half or so. But the leader is still running high, White and Handsome out front, blasting around turns 3, turns 4. And as we told you earlier, the race speeds, a little bit unexpected. They've been in about 200-mile-an-hour range. I thought that the ARCA drivers were running the high 190s, but they are not that far off of what they have qualified.
So we'll get a determination here on what the leader is turning at this point in the race. He was running over 202 miles an hour earlier, but right now we put it in the calculator. It comes out to 203.1, wow. So it's even quicker than it was earlier in the contest.
And Adcox appears to be running just an excellent race, Bob, because we saw when he was behind after his pit stops, and the yellow flag is coming out. We've got a spin and a crash in turn 1. Somebody has gotten into the fence. It looks like that it's
either Mark Gibson or Joe Boer.
Yeah,
those cars are twin cars, and it's either 90 or 91. We do not know, but he took a shot to the outside wall in corner number 2, slid down the banking, and is now on the inside of the racetrack. The field comes around to the start-finish line, takes the caution flag, and the field slows once again.
Now, both cars were painted exactly the same, so that it is number 91 of Joe Boer. It is Joe Boer. Both cars are painted exactly the same in dark blue and nice, beautiful silver numbers on them. But this car was actually a backup car for Gibson, and Boer was able to make arrangements to get this ride. Matter of fact, I flew in with him this week, Bob, and he didn't know for certain whether or not he was going to be able to race when he arrived here at the racetrack.
Well, Red Farmer dropped out of the contest a few laps ago, and he has moved over to Jack Arute, and let's go to Jack now.
Red, there isn't much that you can do when you don't have a clutch at Talladega, is there?
No, it's not. It won't run. I went out of pits in 3rd gear. I had to restart the race in 4th gear. and then it get caught back up, and I thought it was going to hold all right, and I went in the #1 corner there running wide open and hit that little dip, and it come down, the motor just revved up, and it didn't pull anymore, so I knew the clutch was gone.
Well, this thing was holding up a dam behind Bobby Allison's place less than 2 weeks ago. Understand that your helmet couldn't pass inspection. What I want to know is, did you pass inspection?
Well, that's what I told him. I said, I've been racing 37-year-old, and I passed inspection, and a 5-year-old helmet didn't.
What about the racetrack itself? Watching the track conditions, are they good for this kind of racing?
Oh, yeah, the track seems real good. My car was working great. I was just sitting there, you know, riding back there from 5th to 7th place, waiting on the last 100 miles of the race to run, and really wasn't trying to punish the car. And the track feels real good shape.
Well, this guy won a Talladega race already on Friday night across the street at the quarter-mile racetrack. You're racing again tonight. You can get there in time for early warm-ups now, Red.
That's right. We won't be late tonight, so we'll make that 50-lapper over at Talladega short track, and maybe we can win that one again like we did last night. And we had a little bad luck today, but the car was running real good. I was pleased with it. I hope that we'll have our new 86 Sabre built in time to run the next Talladega race.
For Red Farmer, I think the classic line, gentlemen, that he had is after he flipped at Daytona during an ARCA Permatex event, he showed up the next day black and blue and said, I said to him, how do you feel? He says, I feel like I've been to a gang fight and my gang didn't show up. Well, his gang deserted him today, but maybe not tonight at Talladega.
Talk about a guy devoted to his profession. I guess you would have to say that Red is.
Well, he really has, Bob. He's persevered and survived through many eras of racing, and he is still really a very strong contemporary race driver. And as Jack indicated in that interview, he's a very versatile guy. There aren't that many competitors in this day and age who will run not only the short tracks and the super speedways, but also the dirt. And Red is able to do it, and able to do it competitively on all kinds of surfaces.
The yellow flag remains out. The cleanup crew is still over in corner number 1 and 2, where Joe Boer had an encounter with the outside retaining wall. So we'll take this break and be right back to Talladega.
Imagine your next oil change. Sludge and varnish everywhere. Harsh solvent flushes leave grime behind. Wynn's Oil Change Prep loosens and removes that sludge and grime while it leaves a protective coating. More than a flush, it's protection too. So next oil change, try Wynn's Oil Change Prep and stop putting clean oil in a dirty engine. Wynn's, a better run for your money for over 40 years.
You know, a lot of cars out there have ride problems. Why? It may be their springs, especially when you load up. They can cause sag or bottoming out. Now there's a solution. Cargo coils by Moog. Different from standard springs. Let me show you why. These closely spaced coils smooth the ride, and cargo coils have these stronger coils to take over when you load up. So when you hit the road, don't hit the road. Get a pair of Moog cargo coils at your mechanic or auto parts store.
At his last tune-up, Jim McGill forgot to change something very important. His engine belts. After 4 years, belts can break anytime. So don't take chances. Next tune-up, get Gates belts. More mechanics install Gates and more people rely on them than any other belt made. Remember, if your car's 4 years old, get Gates before it's too late.
Meet the people who made the original wine coolers. Years ago, they blended white wine and real fruit in a tub, at a party, on the beach. And now that original blend comes in a bottle. California Cooler, the real stuff.
Back at Talladega, where the yellow remains on, a week from tomorrow, on Sunday, May 11th, at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, we'll present coverage of the Winston. Now, that's for 10 drivers, and 9 of them won events last year on the Winston Cup circuit. Last year was an exciting race won by Darrell Waltrip. This year, join us for live coverage on Sunday, May 11th at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, the Winston, from Atlanta International Raceway. Here at Talladega, the green is about to come back on, and this will be lap number 58. Next time around, we'll reach the halfway point. And here is the green flag coming out. Bill Venturini going very low on the racetrack, trying to gain some laps back that he lost earlier. Grant Adcox, meanwhile, stands on the gas and stretches the lead out once again over Davey Allison.
Yeah, for Bill Venturini, he doesn't have anything to lose. He's got to wring it out as sparse and tight as he can to see just exactly how strong his car is. But I'll tell you, the leaders, particularly Adcox and Allison, you see that Sosby and Jones are following Allison. They look super strong. Found by really in beginning till, and there goes Jones to the inside of Sosby. They're tussling for third.
Jones to the inside and Sosby to the outside. In car 81, they come off of corner number 4 onto the tri-oval. The pole sitter was Ralph Jones at over 203 miles an hour. He has not been in the lead all day, but now is beginning to show some strength. He is slightly ahead, at least, of Sosby for third position as they cross the stripe. Let's see how things stack up as they go into corner number 1. We have reached the halfway point. Sosby able to maintain that spot.
David Sosby, who is short on experience in comparison to Ralph Jones. Sosby has just slightly less experience than Lee Raymond, who's right behind him. Raymond, of course, was the champion last year, and there is Adcox, once again, the Lone Ranger down there on the grass on the backstretch.
He has almost got the left side of the car off into the grass. You're right, Larry. Trying to break that draft, and it appears, as we said, to be working, because each time he can stretch out the advantage on second place, Davey Allison. Here they come once again. Not much of a separation this time as Allison is in second, and right back on Allison's bumper in third position, drafting him is David Sosby.
Sosby has run a tremendous race. Remember, he started in the middle of the field. He moved up to the top 10 in about 4 or 5 laps, and since he's gotten there, he's pretty much stayed. He just turned back Ralph Jones. It took him about a half a lap to really catch on to what was happening after this green flag segment took off, and now he's tacked under the rear bumper of Davey Allison. And Bob, we can't stress enough how much Davey Allison has dominated ARCA racing on the super speedways, particularly here at Talladega. He's won something like 3 of the last 4 races for ARCA held here at Talladega.
And he is also, of course, competed in Winston Cup competition. He finished 10th in his Winston Cup debut on this very racetrack last year. Currently in second position here in the ARCA race, Davey Allison from nearby Hueytown, Alabama. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, there's a problem befallen Davey Allison out on the racetrack, just like so many others before him today. He's got a cracked windshield. Now, the backup windshield that they had is right here, but it has a long linear crack all the way down and across, so that's no good. So you know who they've dispatched to get another windshield back at the Winston Cup garage area? The regular driver, Bob Shack. Only one problem. The reason he's not driving the car is because he pulled all the back muscles about 2 weeks ago when a short track car fell on him. So you came back up here and he said, I can't carry the windshield. How about sending someone down to carry it? I'll get it, but he's going to have to bring it back.
Jack, what is the reason for these cracked windshields? Is it simply because the cars are going so fast and the windshields can't take the force of the air?
Well, not to take anything away from the mechanical or craftsmanship abilities on the Automobile Racing Club of America circuit, but you have to be very, very good at dotting the I's and crossing the T's aerodynamically when you come to a place like Talladega. Well, that includes just how you shape the hood, the windshield opening, and how you actually position it. Because just the slightest flex in a corner or coming down the main straightaway, you can crack one of these windshields. These are regular passenger car windshields, types that you and I would have on our machines. They're not plexiglass, they're not bulletproof, and you don't want one caving in on you at 200 miles an hour.
And they are continuing to run at 200 miles an hour. Last lap by the leader, Grant Adcox, was 202.0. Here he comes once again to cross the stripe and complete lap number 63. He continues to lead Allison, then Sosby, then Raymond, and then the pole sitter, Ralph Jones.
And Bob, just to put a period on that subject that you and Jack just discussed about the windshields, remember, a lot of these body styles are brand new for this division for this year. A lot of 1986 body styles. These teams not only have they lacked experience on the super speedways, but with these particular bodies, too.
We have exceeded the halfway point in this race, and here is the mid-race recap. At that point, 59 lap completed. Grant Adcox was the leader. The margin was about 1 second, and the time was 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 58 seconds. The average speed of the event, 129.732. We had 5 caution periods for a total of 24 laps. 10 cars were on the lead lap, and 21 were still running. And there you can see first, second, third, and fourth once again. Second, third, and fourth pretty much together in a draft as Adcox continues to set the pace.
Bob, if Grant Adcox, there down in the bottom part of your screen again, is running the race that I'm guessing that he's running, it really is a tremendous race. Let me stress again, and there goes Sosby.
And Lee Raymond comes along too, passing Davey Allison. Now this could relate to the Davey Allison problem, the cracked windshield. He has dropped back 2 positions here in just a few hundred feet on the racetrack. Sosby has moved into second, and Lee Raymond has moved into third, drop-kicking Davey Allison back to 4th spot.
Boy, when you're in that position, about the best you can hope for is hope that you get a caution flag before that thing caves in on your lap. Now, they have bars, struts across the front windshield, of course, to protect the driver in the event of something like that happening, and the windshield won't shatter. It will just crack and fall apart and collapse basically into your lap, but obviously it's something you want to try and avoid. But Davey right now really could use a lengthy, slow yellow.
And look at Sosby. He moves down on the bottom of the racetrack right with Adcox, meanwhile staying high on the track, drafting Davey Allison on Lee Raymond, 3rd and 4th. I think without question, Larry, that this man right here, David Sosby, has been pretty much the star of this show, although, of course, Grant Adcox has pretty much dominated it. But David Sosby has driven a very, very fine race.
Yeah, I think you're looking at the 2 best cars as they put a lap on the number 3 car of Ronnie Bates out of Kentucky. The question is, which one of them is showing everything that he has? I think Sosby is the one who is right now all out, if not all out, maybe 95% out. Adcox made such easy work of everybody after that 1 caution flag when he had the long pit stop. It just looked like he said, look, I'm going to lead this race. I'm going to go out there and lead this race, but I'm not going to try and bury everybody because I don't want to burn out my car. Adcox has gone to the lead whenever he's wanted to today. He's opened up about a football field length between him and second place, whoever it was at the time, and just held that firm.
And it's pretty obvious that Grant Adcox is aware of Sosby's pursuit because he has picked up the pace once again. It's over 203 miles an hour, a mile an hour faster than just a couple of laps ago. Grant Adcox leading in car number 2. Now we're going to time a lap, and then we'll convert that time into miles an hour.
Yeah, I think, Bob, we're seeing yet another example of when Adcox wants to punch the button, there's all kinds of electricity right there, and Adcox just takes off. Sosby, who was challenging just a couple laps ago right now, is drifting off into the distance.
Adcox down the backstretch once again, now setting the car into turn number 3. Look at the interval he's opened up between himself and David Sosby. He's in turn number 4 now, coming off the 33-degree banking onto 18-degree banking here in the Tri-Oval. Again, the start-finish line is near turn number 1. It's much further down the track than in any other Tri-Oval that they race on. There he crosses the stripe. It's 47.8 seconds, and that converts to a speed of 200.334, so he was a little off the pace that lap, about 3 miles an hour slower than just a couple of laps ago.
A little off the pace, but it came after he opened up a healthy 30-25 car length lead over second, third, and fourth on the screen right there. Allison trying to conserve or protect whatever you can do. There's not much you can do when you got a windshield that's cracking. Following Lee Raymond. Raymond looks to the inside of David Sosby. It looks like they're racing for second place. Adcox looks well in command.
Now let's watch Lee Raymond on the bottom of the racetrack as he pulls alongside David Sosby coming onto the Tri-Oval. They're racing for second position. It appears as if Sosby is going to hang on to that spot as they cross the line. Here they come, almost side by side, but yes, Sosby has third, second.
And here comes Ralph Jones.
Ralph Jones suddenly showing some muscle. The pole sitter high on the racetrack in that red car now passes Davey Allison as Davey continues to fall back, and now Ralph Jones moves into 4th.
Ralph Jones looked like somebody lit the burner right underneath his seat. Here he comes down, dropping low. Jones going to the inside of Lee Raymond. He should historically have enough momentum to get by, and there he goes.
Into 3rd spot goes Ralph Jones in car number 92. So now it's Sosby 2nd, Jones 3rd, Raymond 4th, and Allison back to 5th position. And Lee Raymond and Jones now running nose to tail out there on the racetrack. As a matter of fact, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th right together.
And we can't stress enough, remember, this is a 2.66-mile racetrack. They may not look like they're going.
Oh, and Jones hits the wall in turn number 1. He went to the outside of Sosby and simply got up too high and scraped the wall in the Tri-Oval and then kept the car against the wall into corner number 1. Ralph Jones, the pole sitter, is in the wall in corner number 1, and this brings out our 6th caution of the day.
The one fortunate thing that happened for Jones is that he did not hit the wall hard enough so that the car caromed off and then came back and hit the wall harder the second time, which happens all so often. It's difficult to assess how much stayed together in the front of that race car, but it looked like Jones did a very good job holding that car as closely as he could along the wall. He hugged it, and there was no significant wall contact.
The car is continuing to roll at the end of corner number 2, entering the backstretch. There's a look at Ralph Jones. The car continuing to move very slowly now down the backstretch. Here's a replay. It happened in the tri-oval right at the start-finish line.
He tried to get, and he ran into Sosby. He and Sosby did make contact. Either he was making a hole where there wasn't one, or David didn't see him coming. I was just about to comment that they're going so fast that you lose the illusion of speed, particularly on TV. It happens so quickly, so suddenly, and all of a sudden you're into the fence.
And here's another angle, and you can see the contact, first with Sosby, then with the outside wall.
And David also does an excellent job of keeping that car running straight, because we have seen incidents like that in Winston Cup racing where the car in front simply makes a hard right-hand turn and goes head-on into the wall. Here's Jones still creeping around. He has not wounded that car so that it cannot move under its own power, but it's going to take him a while to get around.
And it's going to be a break for Davey Allison, because now he can come into the pit area, possibly get that broken windshield repaired, and not lose a lap. We'll be back with more from the ARCA Permatex 500.
Of all the people who get Steve Kinzer's racing machine off to a good start, nobody knows how to get things going like Steve's Uncle Carl, his chief mechanic. And Carl insists on Autolite spark plugs. He knows they can stand up to an awesome engine like this because they're made by the only American company that puts a tough copper glass seal here. Now, you might think they're special racing plugs, but they're the same kind you use in your car. So how does Steve Kinzer feel about Autolite? He's with them all the way.
It's one thing to say you fight friction. It's another thing to prove it. Kendall Motor Oil did. First, ordinary piston rings were plated with pure gold. Then, a prestigious independent laboratory ran them under stop-and-go driving conditions for 5,000 miles. The results? Look, Kendall protected the soft gold. A remarkable test only Kendall has taken. Now, doesn't that tell you something? Kendall Motor Oil, for protection worth its weight in gold.
The right parts. Mr. Goodwrench has the right parts for your GM car. Parts that fit. Parts engineered for your car by people who designed your car. Parts for every make and every model of virtually every GM car and light truck on the road today. Mr. Goodwrench can help you keep that great GM feeling with genuine GM parts, because no one knows your GM car better. No one.
On the track or on the road, it all boils down to dependability. And these two words spell dependability best. Sealed Power. Sealed Power piston rings are the heart of a complete engine parts line that really delivers dependability. Right, Waddell?
I tell you what, if I could find parts better than Sealed Power, I'd use them.
Sealed Power piston rings, Sealed Power engine kits, and Sealed Power parts.
You can't do better when you want an engine to do its best.
Sunday, ESPN serves up the men's final at the U.S. Clay Court Championships. Stamina and skill are the keys to success. Sunday on ESPN.
Back at Talladega, where there is pit activity going on, Bill Venturini has spun in the pit area, came in just a little too strong and spun. However, all the other leaders are in for stops, including Grant Adcox and Davey Allison and just about everyone else.
Well, Bob, it's lap 73. Now, it depends as to how long this caution flag is. Back with a little bit more of that in just a moment. But Jack Arute right now is down in David Sosby's pit.
And if there is any damage, it has to be on the right-hand side, because from our vantage point, it's clean. Solid black lines with the numerals 81. But Sosby has more than his share of problems this afternoon. The first is his radio. Jody Ridley, a Winston Cup competitor, is hooked up with him, but he can only hear what is going on. He can't talk. You can see the leader taking on left side tires. The action hot and heavy here on pit road, and this was a very good caution. But the other problem for Sosby that could actually keep him from victory lane, he can only go 29 laps on a tank of fuel. He's having problems with a fuel pickup from the tank to the motor. You need to go longer than that to hope to have a chance in the Permatex 500 at Talladega.
That's for sure. It's only lap 73, so he'll have to make at least one more stop before this event is over.
Bob, I was about to comment that it is just lap 73. Now, that window is seemingly around lap 76 to 80s. Lap 78 is the prime point. I don't think that anybody can go the distance from here. So unless we have another caution flag, maybe there are a lot of people who are going to be overextending themselves because it feels like we are about 4 or 5 laps too soon right now to making pit stops. And remember, it's almost 3 miles around this place. So 4 or 5 laps may not seem like very much, but that could be as many as 15 miles.
Here you can see 41 laps to go as we follow the number 26 car, Walt Boland from Farmington Hills, Michigan. He's been in and out of the pits all day and not on the lead lap. Dick Bergman is also down in the pit area. We're having trouble with his equipment. That's why you haven't heard from Dick nearly as much as we would like. However, Jack, of course, is down there and doing a fine job covering this very large pit area here at Talladega.
And look who beat Grant Adcox out of the pits again. Davey Allison, despite those problems, or those that we anticipated, seems to be ahead of Grant in the pit race again.
Ralph Jones is also back out onto the racetrack. The only significant damage to that car really was his right front tire, and it, of course, has been replaced. He does have a little bit of sheet metal damage to the race car itself, but I don't think it's going to affect the running of that car all that much. So we'll continue to watch for Ralph Jones. And I don't believe he lost a lap during, he did lose 1 lap. Okay, so Ralph Jones, the pole sitter, is a lap down because of his incident, his wall contact in turn 1.
And curiously, Bob, Davey Allison pitted twice during that yellow flag, and we'll check and see if he went a lap down or not. I do not believe that he did, but it's even more curious that he was able to get out in front of Grant Adcox.
First update you on Davey Allison's situation. They don't have a windshield yet, so they sent him back out. The crack, not too bad, but it's getting worse. You take a look at this tire and this wheel. This came off of Ralph Jones, your pole sitter's Ford Thunderbird. Not much you can do with that. They may have to bring him back in to do some more body work to keep him competitive out there, despite the fact that he's gone a lap down. Tough break for the pole sitter in Bill Elliott's old car.
Yeah, it really is, because Ralph at times this afternoon had shown real flashes of brilliance. As we indicated, he has never led a lap, but certainly been in competition all day long. Now, as he comes around, we can note the damage to that car. It's pretty scuffed up there on the right side.
Yeah, it really is, but now we've got proof that he did a very good job as some of the leaders, most of the leaders are coming in again this time as they come by, still under yellow. We've got proof that Jones did an excellent job of keeping that car along the wall, because I can guarantee you, going into the fence at 200 miles an hour, had he tried to fight it, tried to save it, bring it back, the chances are it would have taken a hard right-hand turn and his day would have definitely been done. But Ralph Jones, the veteran that he is, made the best move that he could make under the circumstances. Once he was up along the wall, just keep it there, try to save the car, maybe make some emergency repairs like they're working on right now. Maybe I should mention.
This is the Country Boy Waterbed Ford that's receiving more service and now pulling onto pit road and back out onto the racetrack. The leader is number 90, driven by Mark Gibson from Champley, Georgia. He has not pitted during this most recent caution period. That's the reason that he's in the lead. In second position is Lee Raymond. Third is David Sosby. In fourth place, Davey Allison. Fifth is the number 2 car driven by Grant Adcox. And then number 51, David Simcoe.
One would think that after being in the hunt all afternoon and then crashing, getting into an accident with someone else, you would come in and you would be hot and really tired and maybe very upset. Not the case with Ralph Jones. That last time he came in the pits, he looked over at me, shrugged his shoulders, laughed a little bit, put it back in gear, and went back out to go racing.
I was watching them, by the way, as they came down the tri-oval here, and I saw that incident occur, and he's just simply ran out of racetrack on the high side.
Well, Bob, he's been around for quite some time. We've mentioned a couple times. He first entered Winston Cup racing in 1963. Yeah, he's been around that long. He was one of only 3 Fords in the race. He was the only one that competitive, so he really carried the standard high and well for Ford.
Now the green flag comes out once again on lap number 76, and very quickly Gibson, who was in the lead, drops back. He did not make a pit stop. but is not going to run, I think, with the leaders. Lee Raymond instead takes the lead here with Sosby second.
Let's watch Grant Adcox. Does he still have the strength that he had early in the race? Boy, he really looks like it. He looks like he is under green and everybody else is still under yellow. Look at him.
He's on the low side of the racetrack and passing everybody and passing them rather easily, going into the lead once again. Adcox is already back on the point with Raymond second, Sosby third, and then Davy Allison.
Boy, he is really showing us some velocity and miles per hour horses underneath that number 2 car, which a lot of you who follow Winston Cup racing might be familiar with. Number 29. That's Grant's normal number in Winston Cup racing. They tape it off and make it a number 2 for ARCA competition.
First 4 cars running right together on the racetrack.
Boy, old Grant does not mince any words. When the green flag drops, he takes off, doesn't he? Raymond looks like he may be just a touch stronger this time than he was the last time. You know, this yellow flag under leisure conditions gives everybody a chance to make some adjustment. Lee Raymond has some Grand National and Winston Cup experience in his pit in the person of David If. That car is maintained down in the south, down in Charlotte, as a matter of fact. And that's the primary reason why Lee has become so competitive on the super speedway. So believe me, that's a team that knows what's going on down in the pit area.
Grant Adcox unable to shake the draft this time, and Lee Raymond stays right behind him. Sosby right behind Raymond now. They're inches apart as they go into turn number 1, and watching from 4th position is Davy Allison. There's the separation between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Grant Adcox is the leader. Here he comes off the 2nd corner again. We'll watch and see if he drops to the inside of the track once again to attempt to break the draft, and he does not do it this time. He stays high.
3,400-pound minimum. It's about 300 pounds less than the Winston Cup cars. The car body styles, they can be as old as 1981, and many of them, as we've commented a couple times today, are as current as 1986. They really blast around the 2.66 miles of Talladega. 3,400 pounds just pressing down into these 33-degree banks. It is a handful. Power steering or not, it is a real responsibility, and it's a lot of force that you're trying to control.
Raymond, Sosby, and Allison, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Lee Raymond, the 1982 ARCA Series Rookie of the Year. And now Adcox does move down low on the racetrack this time.
Boy, if you're trying to follow him, you think, there must be something down there. Maybe it's downhill there on the low side. I got to follow Grant because it's really working well for him. He has been making that move, if you tuned in late, since the beginning of the race, and it's really been paying off dividends for him.
Grant Adcox is 36 years old from Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is a truck sales manager for a Chevrolet dealership in Chattanooga.
You know, Bob, I don't think that Lee Raymond in that bright orange number 1 has led a lap today, has he? We'll check on that. He has led 1 lap. He is the only driver in ARCA to have led at least 1 lap that was under yellow today in all 4 of the ARCA races on the 1986 trail.
And there's the number 3 car, Ronnie Bates from Waynesburg, Kentucky, making another pit stop.
Ronnie Bates, who had a tragedy on his team about a month ago after performing at the previous ARCA race. And there goes Sosby moving under Raymond. Back to the Bates story in a moment. Let's see if Davy Allison go to work on Lee.
Allison to the low side, at least looking low on Lee Raymond, but falling back behind him as they come through the tri-oval once again. Now Raymond looking inside of Sosby, trying to take that 2nd position back. He cannot. David Sosby is in 2nd now. Raymond 3rd, Davy Allison 4th.
But none of them can keep step with Grant Adcox, can they? He just keeps skipping along no matter what goes on behind him.
And the pace is once again above 200 miles an hour. It's 201.218 last time for Grant Adcox.
Just briefly about that Ronnie Bates situation. This is the car that Richard Hampton drove traditionally in ARCA. And after an ARCA race earlier this year, they went home to do some work on the car. And Ronnie Bates' car owner was tragically killed when an air compressor exploded in the garage.
We have completed 81 laps. That means about 212 miles out of 266 that will make up this race. We will be back in just a moment.
Excellence, excitement, Pontiac. Looking for excitement combined with the mark of excellence? Come to Moorman Pontiac. 50 years of quality sales in the area's only Pontiac Outstanding Service Excellence Award winner. Professional salespeople and easy financing help you get that Pontiac feeling. So when it's excitement you're looking for, stop in and see your friends at Moorman Pontiac on Shoup Mill Road between Main and Riverside Drive. Remember,
We build excitement. Pontiac.
Smokeless in a pouch is a good idea, but the taste can be dry as a West Texas wind. Not new Renegades. They're packed with darker, richer, moister tobacco. And there's a lot more than these. So all you taste is moist, satisfying tobacco. Not the pouch. Bigger, moister. With a taste that blows the others away.
To win the 1986 Daytona 500, Jeff Bodine relied on the same Exxon motor oil you can buy in stores. Exxon Uniflow for fuel savings and top protection. Protection against grinding friction. Protection against searing engine heat. Give your car the same protection as the Daytona 500 champion. Exxon Uniflow 10W30 motor oil.
These old-fashioned shingles have worn out before their time. The culprit, insides of mere paper. Ugh.
Now, these are long-lasting Owens Corning shingles. They have a heart of pink fiberglass, so they shrug off moisture, keep their cool and baking sun, and glide through winter after winter.
And that is no snow job.
Owens Corning, our building products put your house in the pink.
Back at Alabama International Motor Speedway in Talladega for the Permatex ARCA 500-kilometer event on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Grant Adcox is the leader. Here is second, third, and fourth with 35 laps to go. David Sosby is second. Third is Lee Raymond in that red car number 1, and then Davey Allison in car 75 as they flash down the backstretch once again. And the interval between first and second now opens up to a couple of seconds. Raymond looking to the inside of Sosby at the end of the backstretch, trying to pull the slingshot. But he's going to have to back off because of a slower car and fall back into third.
Lee Raymond trying to use that slight edge of experience that he has on David Sosby, gets thwarted as they move into the high bank turns 3 and 4 by Sonny Gupta. Moving through the trioval now, Sosby holds the line with Raymond right behind him, and right behind them is Davey Allison.
I believe Raymond has the faster car if he can only find the opportunity to pass David Sosby. Now pulling alongside with him and taking second spot. Nice move by Lee Raymond as they went into turn number 1. Now Raymond really pulling away from David Sosby.
Well, you know, Adcox has opened up. I wonder if Raymond has been watching and says, look, I got the superior car, at least among this trio right now, and Grant Adcox is beginning to take off. I want to have at least a shot at this race. So Raymond may have seen Adcox disappearing off into the sunset and said, boy, it's time for me to assert myself.
Sosby and Allison now running right together on the racetrack, and Davey in that normally Bob Shack-driven car is in fourth, but appears to be in a position possibly to challenge for third. Adcox crosses the line, completing lap 85. The interval between first and second now is more than 4 seconds. So Adcox is indeed pulling away from the rest of the field.
The only person in that lead quartet who has never won an ARCA race is that black-white numbered 81 of David Sosby. Allison has been one of the most prolific winners, or has been the most prolific winner in the last couple of years in ARCA. Lee Raymond has, I believe it's 6 career wins. He is the defending champion. And Grant Adcox, who's way out front, he won at Daytona earlier this year. It was his first ARCA win ever, but he has broken into the win column. And boy, if today's any indication, he's here to make a big impression.
Raymond now beginning to really establish himself firmly in second spot as he's pulling away from David Sosby. The pace continues at over 200 miles an hour. As Larry mentioned, the crew chief on this Lee Raymond car is David Iff from Winston Cup fame. Let's go to Jack Arute.
And David is one of 2 crew chiefs formerly on the Winston Cup Trail. The other, Bill Venturini's chief, Norman Negree. But David, You've watched it all here at Talladega. You've won here at Talladega with drivers before. Have you given Lee Raymond the green light to go after Adcox now?
Yeah, you know, he's young and only been here 2 or 3 times, and the draft is messing him up some. But, you know, as the race goes on, he's getting faster and faster and getting onto the racetrack. And you know, as anybody, Jackie, it takes time to get, you know, good down here. And I think we're catching him right now or running even with him. It all depends where the traffic is. So we're doing the best we can.
But now when we look at the car, it looks a little loose at different places around the racetrack. Is there a problem? Maybe the tires? Are they going away?
No, we just put new tires on the last stop. It's probably the way he's driving it and everything, you know, getting comfortable with the car. We tried to free it up to run with Grant because Grant got a lot more engine than we have. So we freed the car up and run it loose.
What do you mean by freeing it up?
Well, there's a difference between loose and free. We're not really loose. The car's real free through the turns to try to keep up with Grant because he has a lot more motor than us. But we're running good. We got a long way to go yet.
David Ift has been with so many crews now, I'm beginning to think we have to call him Suitcase David.
30 laps to go, Jack, and their calculations may indicate that he's catching Grant Adcox, but not mine. Last time it was a 6-second lead, up just a couple of seconds from a couple of laps ago.
Well, David Sosby has dropped off the pace as we continue to watch Lee Raymond, David Ift's driver. Lee is comfortably in second. Running in third is Davey Allison. Sosby has dropped off the pace. And let me remind you one more time, it's going to be very close if anybody tries to go the rest of the distance on no more pit stops. Everybody stopped at lap 73, and it sure seemed like that's 3 or 4 laps early.
We've given you the top 4. Running in 5th position is David Simcoe. In 6th is Howard Rose. 7th is Mark Gibson. In 8th position is number 83, Bob Donner. Those 8 cars on the lead lap. Then in 9th position, the car number 43, driven by Terry Pearson. And 10th is 98, Tom Meinberg.
The Automobile Racing Club of America, a new face apparently beginning to emerge on the ARCA circuit. Grant Adcox. That right there is the number 7 car of Paul Hansen. Paul Hansen is one of the newer competitors to ARCA. He's been around here in 1986 for the first time on a consistent basis. And he actually has done reasonably well. Hansen has been running in the top 15. He's not challenged for the lead yet. He ended up finishing 13th at the last race at Atlanta, but he's entered all 3 of the previous races on the 1986 points trail.
There's a leader, Grant Adcox from Chattanooga, Tennessee, car number 2. In the 4th turn once again. 90 laps will be completed this time around. He's lapping some of the slower traffic, putting another lap on Tom Meinberg now in the final hole, and also dropping another car a lap down. That's the number 27 machine driven by Andy Stone from Savannah, Georgia. Adcox working low in turns 2 and 3, but managing to extend his lead over the 2nd place car of Lee Raymond. 14 starts, 1 win, and 5 top 5s in ARCA competition for Grant Adcox. And certainly if this car holds together, he's going to add another victory to his credit this afternoon.
You know, Bob, we're accustomed in watching stock car races here in the South to say that if there's a northerner that's doing well, he is the invader. He's come south of the Mason-Dixon line. He has invaded stock car country, and he is invading the Southerners. Well, this is just the reverse. Here's a Southerner who is moving in on a northern circuit, the Automobile Racing Club of America, who has its home base up in Toledo and southern Michigan, and Adcox is a good old Southern boy who's moving in on him.
There's the average speed after 90 laps. We got 27 to go, 140.82 miles an hour, and that includes 6 different caution periods for a total of 29 laps. They're the top 5, Adcox, Raymond, Sosby, Allison, and Simcoe.
The 85 IROC champion. Tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 86 Chevrolet IROC Camaro. Tires, Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. The 85 NHRA Pro Stock champion. Tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 86 T-Bird Turbo Coupe. Tires, Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them.
I put a good 150 miles a year of stop and go driving on my car. Quarter mile here, quarter mile there. It adds up. So I use Wynn's friction-proofing engine treatment. Adding a bottle with every oil change helps stop oil breakdown and oil burning. Winds is added protection and insurance that helps me run cooler and smoother. And if Winds does all that for my $100,000 race car, just think what it can do for this one.
Winds, a better run for your money for over 40 years.
A new speed record in Indy, Speed Week reviews the first fast laps, plus highlights from Talladega, all Thursday on ESPN.
Welcome back to the Permatex ARCA 500-kilometer race here at Talladega, Alabama. Grant Adcox in car number 2 continues to lead this race with 93 laps completed. His advantage over second place, Davey Allison, is about 7.5 seconds. And yes, Davey Allison has moved into second position, having passed Lee Raymond in car 1.
Boy, we didn't even see that one coming on, Bob. It looked like that Davey was beginning to not get off of the pace, but certainly succumb to the consistency of Lee Raymond and Grant Adcox, and all of a sudden Davey caught a hold of the draft or whatever, found the right combination and moved by.
Again, Davey Allison is not driving the car that he normally drives in ARCA competition. He replaced Bob Shack just before the start of the race, went from the tail end of the field when the green flag dropped, and has moved into second position. So far in this race, we have had 7 lead changes among 6 different drivers, so it has been a very competitive race, although Grant Adcox has certainly led most of the time.
We talked a little bit about the reversal here of seeing a southern man perform well on basically a northern circuit. The Automobile Racing Club of America has been around since the very early 1950s with John Marker, a man who really goes back quite a ways in my own personal history, founded this organization. He started out as a NASCAR official, then he went back up north and set up a circuit that I think he might have had plans at one point to become the NASCAR of the North, but as it turned out, and here is Howard Rose, by the way, moving up for a challenge for 4th position over David Sosby.
Howard Rose in car number 56, right behind David Sosby in 81, who has run well all afternoon. And right behind Rose is the yellow car driven by David Simcoe, and he too is battling for position. This is 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah, we commented about 10 laps ago that looked like that Sosby had really slowed down from the rapid-fire pace that he was turning in up near the front about 10 laps ago, and it's obvious that both Simcoe and Rose are now showing an opportunity to improve their positions by 1.
Well, Davey Allison is running well. He proved that by passing Lee Raymond, but I think that Grant Adcox has this field covered this afternoon unless something can go seriously wrong with this car. He completes lap number 96. Now, we'll get an interval here between 1st and 2nd position. Here comes Davey Allison, and the interval is about 7.8 seconds.
Allow me to add to what Larry Newbern said about the Automobile Racing Club of America. Back in 1969, the relationship with the France family was cemented right here at this racetrack in Talladega, Alabama, when the Winston Cup stars refused to race the first time because of tire problems. The ARCA competitors filled in the field, and they did a great job with Richard Brickhouse winning. From then to now, they've been laughed at and ridiculed, and in many cases, especially on the super speedways, called the crash and burn division. But with the upgrading of their rules to 1986 specs this year, I think this race especially has brought them some new maturity and some new respect in the world of motorsport.
I totally agree with you, Jack. We touched on it just briefly earlier about 25 to 30 laps into the race when everything had gone so smoothly, with the exception of the crash there on the 2nd lap with Dick Skillen. This has been a very clean race, and everybody has driven very, very well.
I think I used the word curious at the open of the show, and that was not the negative connotation of that word. Yeah, that type of reputation has been spread around among certain racing circles, but I'll tell you, no one can fault the ARCA guys for going for it. And if that is the measure of a true race driver, these guys do very well. They make tremendous sacrifices to run particularly these super speedways in the South. We've got people who own gas stations, we've got people with college degrees, people who work construction, people who are truck drivers Monday through Friday. And in their own way, they make a bigger sacrifice than a full-time professional racing driver just to come down here in the South and run. There is Howard Rose, one of the youngest drivers on the trail. He picks up 4th position as he moves under David Sosby.
Sosby back to 5th. Now David Simcoe pulling right up on the back bumper of David Sosby in corner number 4. They come onto the tri-oval. Let's see if Simcoe makes a move here in that yellow car. His sister Patty was eliminated in that 2nd lap accident over in corner number 2 that also knocked out Dr. Dave Skillen. Also involved in that crash was Bill Ingram in car number 62. And now we have a spin. Soesby and Simcoe, it looked like they touched, and Soesby loses control, hits the wall, and spins down the banking. And a car also involved, hitting 5 cars Soesby.
Involved altogether.
Very hard contact between, I believe, Andy Stone in 27 and Soesby, as Soesby just almost reached the apron of the racetrack.
Tom Meinberg is involved, the black and orange number 98, and it began when David Soesby, whom, as we told you a couple times, has been running off of the pace, went into number 1 slower than Dave Simcoe anticipated, and Dave Simcoe simply rear-ended David going into turn number 1 and put David into a spin.
Let's take a look at it again. They entered corner number 1 with Simcoe behind Soesby, but then I believe there was slight contact and Soesby lost control.
Yeah, David going maybe slower than he has been all day long, and it caught Dave Simcoe off guard. And David right in front of Simcoe goes into a spin. Simcoe goes by unscathed, and other people behind him. Boom! Nowhere to go.
It was number 27, I believe, yes, Andy Stone, that made very hard contact with Soesby on the apron of the racetrack. Number 7 is also involved. That's Paul Hansen. And from another angle, we can see the second impact here. There it is. Very hard contact.
Andy Stone, an infrequent competitor in ARCA racing, who was able to qualify for the race here today, apparently still in his race car. Now we begin to see some movement down there, and this emergency crews, of course, right on hand to come to the aid of Andy.
Well, one thing this does do is answer the question of whether we were going to have a fuel situation affecting the outcome of the race. We will not, because there are only 17 more laps to go, and this will give everybody an opportunity to come in and fuel up and go the distance now the rest of the way. Tom Meinberg comes in. He was one of the cars involved in that crash over at corner number 2, but I don't think had real serious contact with anybody. He's limping toward pit road.
Gives you an idea, again, how rapidly things can happen at 190 plus miles an hour. It looks like Meinberg's front windshield is out also. It's hard to say, Bob, but I'm seeing no reflection. I think the Cincinnati area driver is missing a front windshield as he creeps down the pit apron and toward his particular location down here on pit road.
So the yellow flag is out, and we do see one of the drivers with helmet on, but walking around. We do not know who that is, but we assume it's Andy Stone, since that's where the wrecker is.
It started to say that gives you an idea as to how quickly things happen at 200 miles an hour. You just don't know where to go when you come blasting around that corner at probably easily 195 plus.
All right, we're going to take a break and try to assess the condition of the drivers involved in this accident, and then we'll be back. We're at Alabama International Way for the Permatex ARCA 500.
For quality that's out of sight, count on Jeffco Van Conversion. From start to finish, Jeffco will customize any van to fit any budget, starting as low as $1,100. Jeffco's skilled staff is equipped to handle any job. Jeffco specializes in creative paint designs and contemporary interior designs on any model van. Jeffco's complete showroom at 4600 Gateway Circle offers a complete line of customized accessories and parts for all recreational vehicles and vans. Jeffco, it's the best van conversion in town.
Don't spend another dime on designer clothes until you have a Moore's Nautilus designer body to match.
Some say he came from a distant planet. Others say he's from Dayton.
Tastes like tough guy.
He brought an army with him.
Tune-up.
Here, sir.
Smooth sail.
Yo.
Motor honey.
Here, TG.
About face.
Equipped with a trusty double money-back guarantees, they fearlessly fight
company.
The enemies of your car.
Take 'em.
Tastes like tough guy.
The K-Side Army's available at auto departments throughout the universe.
Well done, troops.
Look for the tough guy, or use your magic decoder ring.
We are back at Talladega, and here are the point standings in ARCA competition going into this race. Lee Raymond led with 700, then David Sosby with 600, Scott Stovall with 505, Grant Adcox with 500, and Bob Shack with 495. And Grant certainly can add to his total today. The second five, Ralph Jones, Howard Rose, Bill Venturini, Bob Dotter, and Bobby Jacks. Well, for those of you who have been enjoying the Sabatini match, the clay courts from Indianapolis, there's also other activity. Racing activity in Indianapolis today is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, open for practice prior to next Saturday's first day of time trials, and of course the running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race on the 25th of May. Chip Ganassi was the first on the racetrack this afternoon. Others that have been out, Dick Simon, Jose Legarza, Roberto Moreno, Johnny Parsons, and Bobby Rahal. And very early in the afternoon, Bobby Rahal had the fastest speed of 2:01.2. And it's going to be very interesting to watch the practice this week to see how fast those guys are going to go when qualifying begins next Saturday. Some say 214, 15, possibly 16 miles an hour.
It all happens very quickly because they have just 1 week. You know, in the old days, the track opened on the 1st of May. It just seemed like there were 2 weeks between the track opening and the first day of qualifying. But now there's just the 1 week. For economic purposes, things have toned down a little bit. And it happens very quickly. And if you're not ready to go fast by at least Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, your chances at the pole are not good.
And we invite you to watch Speed Week every Thursday night at 7:30. And, of course, we'll update you on all the activity at the Motor Speedway throughout the month of May. Well, we are still under caution here at Talladega because of the accident over in corner number 2 involving 5 cars. Involved was the number 98 of Tom Meinberg. Scott Stovall was involved. David Sosby, of course, and the number 27 car of Andy Stone took the hardest shots as they collided on the apron of the racetrack. Also, Paul Hansen in car number 7 was involved in the incident over there, and the cleanup is continuing. When we go back green, it'll be the number 1 car of Lee Raymond leading the procession with the number 90 of Mark Gibson in second position. Then Davey Allison in 4th position would be David Simcoe, and in 5th spot, the number 2 of Grant Adcox.
You know, we have seen repeatedly in all kinds of racing, if you want to be season champion, it's not so much to win the most races like Bill Elliott did a year ago, but how many events can you finish? We had 3 former ARCA champions who entered the race today: Lee Raymond, Bob Dotter, and Scott Stovall. Attrition has really cut this field down to well under half of what started, but all 3 of the former ARCA champions are still out there.
And you know, we have seen the pace here this afternoon in excess of 200 miles an hour on just about every lap. And that makes me wonder what kind of pace we're going to see tomorrow in the Winston Cup race, as the slowest driver in the field, Jimmy Means, had to turn a 2:02.5 just to make the field, and Bill Elliott went 2:12.2 in making the pole position.
You know, Bob, big racetracks, they seem to have a way of shrinking. And talk to a lot of the rookies during rookie orientation. Rick Muskiewicz comes to mind immediately. That, you know, once you see the place and you know the heritage that goes behind it, and you see 2.5 miles, 2.66 miles, looks big. Then you get out there and it kind of comes down to size. This is the one racetrack in the world that I've been to. It never seems to get smaller. It is so huge. It is so big. Just to walk around here or drive around with a rental car in the infield, the place stays as big as it is or was the very first time you saw it. And to be here in person is truly something to behold. It is fast. You talk about speeds anywhere else in the country, but you come to Talladega, and it really does send shivers up your spine everywhere you walk to around this racetrack.
It is big, 2.66 miles, but from most vantage points in the grandstand, you can see all the way around the track, and it certainly provides a great spectator racetrack for the thousands that pay their admission to get in here. And by the way, they're expecting around 125,000 people to pack the grandstands and the infield tomorrow afternoon. We'll be here live, and we hope you'll join us for that exciting Winston 500.
One lap signal coming up. They'll be looking toward hopefully green next time around. One word about why the cars are faster this year, including the ARCA cars. A couple of the Winston Cup drivers told me that last year the cars had the potential for these kinds of speeds, but because of the aerodynamics and some of the other little small fine points that were engineered into the cars last year, they had to make adjustments to the cars which actually ended up slowing them down a little bit. It wasn't the intent, but they had to slow them down a little bit so that the drivers felt some degree of comfort. This year, the cars go faster easily, more easily than they did last year. There's the purse money for today, almost $84,000. And that's the reason why everybody from top to bottom is able to go 2, 3, even 4 miles per hour quicker than they did in 1985.
As the cars head down the backstretch, it's a 2 abreast formation. Lee Raymond the leader, then Mark Gibson in second position. Third would be the number 75 of Davey Allison, then Grant Adcox, and then David Simcoe. Now the question is, can Grant Adcox once again establish the superiority here and take the lead quickly? We only have, let's see, it'll be 106 laps when they come down. So it'll be 11 to go when we get the green flag. We're going to take a break before the green comes out and then be back with the conclusion of this ARCA Permatex 500 from Talladega, Alabama. Stay with us.
On the track or on the road, it all boils down to dependability. And these 2 words spell dependability best. Sealed Power. Sealed Power piston rings are the heart of a complete engine parts line that really delivers dependability. Right, Waddell?
I tell you what, if I could find parts better than Sealed Power, I'd use them.
Sealed Power piston rings, Sealed Power engine kits, and Sealed Power parts.
You can't do better when you want an engine to do its best.
Tonight, the New York Rangers and Montreal Canadiens hit the ice for Game 2 of the Wales Conference Final. Live tonight on ESPN.
The green has just come out on Talladega, Alabama International Motor Speedway, and 106 laps completed. Lee Raymond shows the way into turn number 1, but on the inside is Davey Allison passing for second position on Mark Gibson. Here comes Grant Adcox also around Gibson, moving into third. They come off the banking and down the backstretch. Let's see what Grant Adcox can do. He runs third now, looking for the opportunity to pass Davey Allison, moving down to the low side of the racetrack, but cannot go into second place. Allison, meanwhile, looking strong and looking for the lead.
Sometimes you can make those adjustments in a hurry during the last pit stops and maybe gives you the superior edge over the field. Adcox had everybody covered so well, it seemed like that everybody else was going to have to wave their magic wand to turn out to be faster than Grant. I guarantee you, Davey will not be an easy customer to get around.
10 laps to go, 10 to go. Here's Adcox moving high on the racetrack. Right alongside Davey Allison going into the 33-degree banking. But Allison moves high on the speedway and blocks Adcox advance. They continue to run in that order. Raymond leading, then Allison, then Adcox.
There's an outside chance that Davey Allison could end up winning this race for Lee Raymond, but I doubt it. Adcox has been so strong all day long.
Now Allison goes into the lead, and here comes Adcox right behind him.
Grant Adcox way down on the apron, down in the loose stuff. You saw that quick try getting underneath the car. He had to slow a little bit. The car swerved just a touch, but Grant held firm. Now he stays underneath Lee Raymond.
Onto the tri-oval once again. Adcox right alongside Lee Raymond battling for second position. Here they come. They're side by side for second spot. Adcox with just the slight advantage. Now Raymond has it as they go into turn number 1 again. 9 more laps to go.
9 more laps, but well over 20 miles to go. But as strong as Adcox has been, they've got to fight him every inch of the way in hopes of holding him back long enough. Grant Adcox now has a clear track to go after Davey Allison, and here he comes.
Again to the inside of the racetrack. Let's see if he makes the move. Yes, he does. Adcox goes into the lead. Raymond comes along to go into second, dropping Davey Allison back to third position. Now, can Grant Adcox stretch out the lead and dominate as he has most of this race?
Grant Adcox was the only ARCA driver to do extensive testing here at Talladega in preparation for this race, and apparently they found something, because that car has been bulletproof, to use a word that's come up often here on ESPN, at least on our auto racing broadcast, all day long.
8 laps to go, down to the pit area. Jack Arute.
You're talking about Davey Allison. Maybe one of the things that's helped him is some new tires that he put on during that last pit stop. One of the great things here at Talladega about new tires, they pick you up, make the car stable, and a lot faster, at least for about 10 laps.
Grant Adcox way down low on the racetrack once again on the backstretch, kicking up the oil dry and making it look like a dirt track for Lee Raymond, who was right behind him. Those tires appear to be not working all that well as Davey is mired back in third position and really not showing much strength at this point. Grant Adcox is, however, as he comes by the stripe and completes lap 110 with 7 more to go.
Grant Adcox, the truck sales manager, is, to coin a phrase, really trucking today. Mr. Adcox, who has led 70 laps at the most recent race, Atlanta. He led 45 laps at Daytona in winning. His number 2 in the terms of number of laps led for the 1986 season for ARCA, and it looks like he's going to take over sole possession of that particular laurel here today.
Davey Allison drafting on Lee Raymond down the backstretch. Going into the corner once again. No move on the part of Davey Allison. He keeps the car in the middle of the speedway while Lee Raymond is just slightly low. Off of the 4th corner once again.
Something else to keep in mind, we'll use that word traditionally, historically again, and most of that experience comes from watching Winston Cup races. 2 cars hooked up in a draft should be able to run down a single car. But Adcox has been so superior today, that simply has not been a factor. It looks like that his lead over Lee Raymond in the orange car and Allison in the black and white car has stabilized. I'm not worried about that. I think that's exactly what Grant Adcox wants. He has not been punishing that car today, despite the fact that he's been the very number 1 car.
And Grant is still continuing to set a pace in excess of 200 miles an hour. Last lap, we clocked him at 200.4. It isn't as fast as he has gone during the race. We've had him up close to 204 miles an hour, but he's still above 200. As once again, he enters the tri-oval and complete lap number 112. We've got 5 to go in this race. Grant Adcox, 2 stories here, I think. First of all, Adcox, great performance and his pretty much domination of this race. And secondly, Davey Allison, who jumped into this car this morning, taking over for Bob Shack, started dead last, and now is up into 3rd spot and has been in contention most of the race.
You know, it's hard to say, particularly at this juncture of the race, Bob. So much happens all day long, but it looks like there's a little more oil than normal on the tail of Lee Raymond's car. I saw it on that shot the previous lap. It's not quite as striking when he goes into 1 and 2, but it looks like they've been leaking a little more than they prefer to.
Yeah, I've noticed that. There is a dark spot on the back bumper of the Lee Raymond number 1. Here comes Adcox, the leader, completing lap 113. We have got 4 more laps to go. Can he hang on? I think he can.
The Automobile Racing Club of America, this type of stock car racing really has been significant. And now Raymond gets closer. I don't know. Maybe Adcox is a little bit off the edge. More about ARCA if we have time. Raymond and Allison look like they're getting closer. Now Adcox, to his defense, was working around the outside of slower traffic.
But again, he is on the very bottom of the racetrack with less than 4 laps to go now, trying to break that draft and get away. Now he does open up a little bit of an advantage going into turn number 3. But Raymond is right there, and so is Davey Allison, watching Grant Adcox and hoping that Adcox will make some kind of a mistake or that his car will go sour on him here in the closing stages. Lap 114 completed. 3 more circles around the 2.66-mile tri-oval here at Talladega.
Going back to the 1950s, talking a little bit about the history of ARCA. ARCA drivers, one of the first drivers in the country to wear a driver's suit, believe it or not. Bucky Sager ran in this series. One of the first drivers. There's a look at Grant Adcox, who invented the overhead airfoil wings, ran in ARCA. That was Jim Cushman. There is leader Grant Adcox. A good look at the bearded man. Lee Raymond, whose father Joe has been involved in racing for a number of years from Dayton, Ohio, is 2nd. And running in 3rd is Davey Allison, whose father, of course, Bobby, has had a reasonable amount of success in stock car racing.
And Bobby Allison will start 2nd in tomorrow's Winston Cup race here at Talladega. Once again, the cars on the tri-oval, 115 laps being completed. 2 more laps to go for Grant Adcox, Lee Raymond, and Davey Allison. Running in 4th position, by the way, is Howard Rose, but not in a position to win this race. And 5th, in a very steady performance, Mark Gibson from Chamblee, Georgia.
Super Speedway high bank winners of ARCA have been Kyle Petty, who won his first race ever in his career, an ARCA race in the high banks at Daytona. Tim Richmond has won in this race, and the most famous graduate of the ARCA ranks, Benny Parsons, who was the hands-down champion a few years back when he was running ARCA up in Lincoln.
Now Davey Allison looking to the inside of Lee Raymond, trying to find 2nd spot. As they come down now, Harold Kinder, the official flagman for NASCAR, will display the white flag, and Grant Adcox will have 1 more lap to go. Here it is, 1 to go for Grant Adcox.
Now the question becomes 2nd place. That could be the real battle for that position right there. Adcox looks like he has things well in hand. Can Davey Allison muster enough strength to get around Lee Raymond. Remember, the start-finish line is not at the apex of the tri-oval. You have about 3 corners once you enter turn number 3 to make your move here at Talladega. The position could change 2 or 3 times in the last quarter of a lap of this race.
Allison is going to try Lee Raymond high in turn number 3. Allison moving to the high side. But that is not the faster groove, it appears. They come off of corner number 4. Here comes Allison looking for second spot. Grant Adcock still holds a lead. They come through the tri-oval now. It is Grant Adcock's winning. Second position is going to be close. It's Davey Allison just nipping Lee Raymond by a fender to take second.
Here comes fourth now coming through the tri-oval, which is somewhat anticlimactic, of course, after that great run by Allison. There is Grant Adcock on his cool-down lap, a race that he absolutely, completely dominated. Howard Rose goes across the finish line for 4th place, and Davey Allison pulls up alongside of Grant and gives him congratulations. Bob, that last lap?
The last lap was run at 201.3 miles an hour. So Grant had his foot in the throttle all the way through this race. We replay the finish and look at how close it was as Davey Allison went high in the tri-oval to try to nip Lee Raymond, and he got the job done.
Boy, he really did. And the interesting thing about that move, Bob, is that we had not seen, there's the start-finish line, we had not seen Davey make that move all day long. It was a complete and utter surprise, as I'm sure it was to Lee Raymond. And you yourself said, normally that's not the place to pass unless you plan on at least 2 moves, but Davey had one in mind, and boy, it was a good one.
Grant Adcock is pulling into pit road and will soon be pulling into victory circle. Very well-deserved win by Grant Adcock here today as he took the lead at the drop of the green flag when the pole sitter Ralph Jones fell back a few positions. Grant Adcock went into the lead, and aside from a few laps in which he was not in the lead because of pit stops, by pretty much a domination here by Grant this afternoon. Well, he's now being positioned in victory lane, and when he gets the helmet off, we'll have to talk with him. We'll be back for that in just a moment.
For quality that's out of sight, count on Jeffco Van Conversion. From start to finish, Jeffco will customize any van to fit any budget, starting as low as $1,100. Jeffco's skilled staff is equipped to handle any job. Jeffco specializes in creative paint designs and contemporary interior designs on any model van. Jeffco's complete showroom at 4600 Gateway Circle offers a complete line of customized accessories and parts for all recreational vehicles and vans. Jeffco, it's the best van conversion in town.
Don't spend another dime on designer clothes until you have a Moore's Nautilus designer body to match.
In 1985, the winning cars of the most prestigious auto races were equipped with Goodyear Racing Eagles. So it's small wonder that in 1986, most of the finest high-performance street cars are equipped with Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them.
When the big Q flows, America goes.
Hey, that truck runs, a Fisher & Son doesn't.
Only gets the big Q. Quaker State.
Well, you can depend on number 1.
Fuel pop, they start with Pennsylvania grade crude.
Nothing like Quaker State.
It's a one-of-a-kind formula. Stable viscosity, keeps the oil flowing, protecting, no matter what.
No substitute for quality. I got 2 great partners.
Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Coming up very shortly. We don't want you to...
Victory Lane at Talladega. The inhabitant, the crew, and the driver, Grant Adcock, after a tremendous performance here this afternoon. Dick Berggren is there in Victory Lane.
And Grant, a big war whoop when you get out of the car. You're obviously a very happy man. You dominated today.
I'll tell you what, it couldn't be any better. That's the best this thing's ever been to me.
What did you do to this car to get all this speed?
I think I got me an engine builder. That's what caused all of it.
You got more horsepower out of the motor?
A lot more horsepower.
How about the chassis? Did you do anything special for Talladega in particular?
Not really. My friend Waddell Wilson helped me with that.
Waddell was helping you with the chassis. That's Cale Yarborough's crew chief.
He's a hard man to beat.
Did you do any testing for the event?
We came down for one day, tested a little bit, and we came down with Waddell. That helped even more.
You were running a very low line, a line different from anybody else. Was that part of the strategy?
You'll see the same line tomorrow. That's a quick way around here, as low as you can stay.
Not everybody runs it. Who are you imitating when you take that line?
Dale Earnhardt.
Anybody else?
No, Cale runs a little lower, but I believe Dale's got the best line here.
Okay, Grant Adcox in Victory Lane, a very happy team. They thoroughly dominated the event here this afternoon.
Yeah,
Bob?
they did, Dick, and to back that up, he led 99 of the 117 laps that were completed here this afternoon, so he led all but 18.
Bob, you know, the impressive thing about Adcox today was he had a far superior car all day long, but he never abused it. He went to the lead when he needed to stay out of trouble. Once he got there, asserted himself, he just kept everybody else within sight, never letting anybody get close. He drove an extremely intelligent race. It was an outstanding performance.
Certainly was, and a really good performance by all the drivers this afternoon. We did have some crashes, but no injuries, and certainly not the severe crashes that we have seen in this race in previous years. So the crowd begins to file out here, and we will go back down to the pit area and talk to our second and third place finishers right after we take this break for some messages. We'll be back in just a moment to Talladega, Alabama, an International Speedway.
Imagine your next oil change. Sludge and varnish everywhere. Harsh solvent flushes leave grime behind. Wynn's Oil Change Prep loosens and removes that sludge and grime while it leaves a protective coating. More than a flush, it's protection too. So next oil change, try Wynn's Oil Change Prep and stop putting clean oil in a dirty engine. Wynn's, a better run for your money for over 40 years.
I always thought it was crazy. People spend thousands of dollars on a car, and then when it comes to taking care of it, they try to save a few cents on no-name brands. It's a lot smarter to put in ones you've heard of, like Fram oil and air filters, Autolite spark plugs and wires, and Bendix brakes. After all, if you're going to put a lot of money into a car, spend a little taking care of it. It could save you from a lot of trouble down the road.
Mr. Goodwrench has the right tools available. Tools of the science of automotive service. Advanced, sensitive, accurate, strong and simple, or complex, like electronic eyes that probe the mysteries of your car. These are the tools that understand and fix. These are the tools of Mr. Goodwrench, and no one knows your GM car better. No one.
900-976-1313. ESPN Dial Sports, the number for the latest scores, stats, and trends, plus ESPN programming information. For just 50 cents a call, you get the country's best scoreboard service, plus our primetime lineup. 900-976-1313. ESPN Dial Sports. Call anytime.
Grant Adcox won today's ARCA race here at Talladega, Alabama by about a second, but the real contest was for second and third between Davey Allison and Lee Raymond. And Jack Arute is in the pit area with both of those drivers.
A better description, Bob, would be finish line fireworks. Davey Allison on my right, Lee Raymond on my left. When they came across where the start-finish line would normally be at most racetracks, it was Lee Raymond running second. But between there and where Talladega has a finish line, Davey Allison, you scored second place. A good move.
Well, you know, on that last lap, I could see it was coming down to race for second place, and second place pays a little bit better than third. And I knew what Lee was going to do because I did it to him last year. And I figured my only shot was on the outside, and the car just worked good up high that last lap. And when we came down through the Trove, I thought Lee had me, and I got a little gust of wind up behind me, and the car just nosed by.
doesn't get much closer than that. But we remarked during that last lap that you chose an outside line and that maybe it wouldn't work. Did you think all the time you were going to go that way, or did you just kind of hold that and make a split-second decision?
Well, with about 2 laps to go, I started thinking about it, and you know, I knew what Lee was going to do the whole time. I couldn't figure out whether I wanted to try to beat him to the bottom or take a shot on the outside and see what happened. I had to gamble, and I gambled and went to the outside, and it worked.
Boy, talking about lines and lines that didn't look to be logical here, Grant Adcox ran one all day today, and in victory lane, he told Dick Berggren that low line coming down into turn 3 is what we should look for tomorrow. Do you see it that way, Davey?
What I look for tomorrow is to see a single file race all day long and a race to the checkered flag. But, you know, everybody knows that Bill Elliott's pretty strong, and I just hope that Dad's car will hang in there all day and he'll have a shot at him at the end.
Well, what about it, Lee? Did you know that this kid had replaced Bob Schacht in the car? Did you know it was Davey Ellison?
Oh, yeah. Me and David went out and hot lapped yesterday and played around. So we was figuring on something like this happening today.
Well, when you looked in your mirror and you didn't see Davey anymore and you were at the tri-oval and you saw him on the outside of you, what did you say to yourself?
I lost him when we went into 3 down there. I knew he was on the outside of me, but I couldn't tell how far up he was. We come through 3, I looked over my right shoulder because I couldn't find him in the mirror. I knew he was there. Give him room to race.
3rd place today. Are you satisfied with that?
Anytime you can come here and run in the top 5, you better be proud of yourself. A lot of fast equipment down here.
We remarked today that we felt that maybe the way this race was run and the way the finish came about, that maybe ARCA had scored a victory, a moral victory for the class of competition. Do you think that's the case?
Every race we've run on the super speedways has been getting better. It showed itself. Everybody should have been here to watch it.
All right, you guys, I want to ask you one question. Next time, if you're running 2nd and he's running 3rd, do you think he'll do the same thing?
Well, Jackie, we'll just have to wait and see, you know. It's hard to make a prediction ahead of time. A lot of it depends on how my car's working and his car's working at the end of the race. And to be honest with you, I don't know what I would do if he was behind me.
Well, I'd like to see Jimmy the Greek make odds on that. Back to you, Brent. I mean, Bob.
Thank you, Jack, and congratulations to all the drivers in today's race, especially Grant Adcox, the winner, Davey Allison 2nd, and Lee Raymond in 3rd. The Victory Lane celebration is still going on down there. Grant Adcox being presented the winning trophy and being interviewed by the public address system. We'll be back for some closing comments after these messages.
Your nearby CarQuest Auto Parts store isn't owned by some big corporation. It's owned by one of your neighbors who really cares about you. As trained, CarQuest qualified counter pros, we're here to make sure you get the right part at the right price. Even the right advice. There's over 2,000 stores like this one across the country with a whole world of parts backed up by the CarQuest coast-to-coast guarantee. CarQuest, America's auto parts giant, because real value and friendly professional help make CarQuest the right place to buy auto parts.
Tomorrow, join ESPN at the world's fastest superspeedway for live coverage of the Winston 500. It's 200-mile-an-hour excitement as NASCAR's top drivers fight for a share of the $500,000 purse. The Winston 500 from Talladega, live tomorrow on ESPN. Tonight, the New York Rangers and Montreal Canadiens hit the ice for Game 2 of the Wales Conference Final. Live tonight on ESPN.
At his last tune-up, Jim McGill forgot to change something very important, his engine belts. After 4 years, belts can break anytime. So don't take chances. Next tune-up, get Gates belts. More mechanics install Gates and more people rely on them than any other belt made. Remember, if your car's 4 years old, get Gates before it's too late.
Peerless Faucet, durability means solid brass, resilient copper, and stainless steel construction. It also means if you install your Peerless washerless faucet today, it will not only still be working in the year 2001, it will still be under warranty. Peerless do-it-yourself faucets. Install in no time and last a long time.
We are back at Talladega, where the ARCA Permatex 500 here at Talladega has been won by Grant Adcox, who led 99 out of 117 laps. Now, the race summary showed that at the end of 117 laps, 500 kilometers and 312 miles, the winner, Adcox. The length of victory was about 3-car lengths. He averaged 142.07 miles an hour, and the race took 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 26 seconds. There were 7 caution periods for a total of 36 laps, 6 different leaders and 10 lead changes, and 15 cars out of 37 finished the race. Now the top 10 finishers. The winner, of course, Adcox. Second was Davey Allison by about a nose over Lee Raymond. Fourth was Howard Rose, and fifth was Mark Gibson. Finishing in 6th position, David Simcoe. 7th was Bob Dotter. 8th, Terry Pearson. 9th, Bill Venturini. And 10th was Ralph Jones. This race has been brought to you by Gates Rubber Company, celebrating 75 years of excellence in quality automotive parts. And by Peerless Faucets, installs in no time, lasts a long time. Join us for Speed Week at 7:30 on Thursday, when we'll review this race and all the other major news from the world of auto racing at Speed Week, 7:30 Thursday night. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, the Winston 500 speeds well above 200 miles an hour. Join us at 2 o'clock Eastern Time for that race. For Dick Berggren, Jack Arute, and Larry Newber, this is Bob Jenkins. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock for the Winston 500.
Speed Week, an Italian flies the red, white, and blue.
America's heartthrob is red, white, blue, and checkered.
Well, red and more red, the speed reading course in NASCAR.
This and more next on Speed Week.
Is brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. And by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name.
The ESPN Auto Racing team was busy with 4 races in 2 days last weekend. We're here to review those and other events on Speed Week. Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newber. We begin a review in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, where the Indy cars completed their Triple Crown for 1986.
The Domino's Pizza 500 saw a contender crash during qualifying, a new one-lap record established, and Mario win a race that's always eluded him. This crash during qualifying forced Tom Sneva to start his short-track backup car in last position, 29th for the 500-miler. Michael Andretti went 205.7 for a new one-lap record in time trials, but dropped back at the start because although the green flag was waving, the yellow light was still on in turn 1. That confusion may have caused this first-lap accident involving Scott Brayton, who was nearly overturned by Dennis Firestone. Johnny Parsons was an innocent victim. Another early accident eliminated Emerson Fittipaldi. Then the only driver injury, Ed Pym broke his right forearm in a crash with Al Unser. Johnny Rutherford led the first 26 laps, but his Pocono bad luck struck again. He was able to walk away from his badly battered race car after hitting the outside wall. It was Rutherford's 4th crash in 5 years at Pocono. Other leaders included Rick Mears and Bobby Rahal and Kevin Cogan for 7 laps. But the rear wing mount on Mears' car broke. He spent 12 laps in the pits waiting for repairs. He did return, however, and finished the race in 8th position. Rahal's race ended 24 laps from the finish when a fire broke out, forcing Rahal's hasty exit from the car. Mario Andretti had the field covered from that point on. His only anxious moment came during a pit stop attempt. He overshot and nearly hit tire man Carl Dean. He was able to lap second-place Cogan, and Mario went on to win his first ever Pocono 500 in a facility he considers his home racetrack. And the win puts Mario in the PPG points lead, son Michael second, Sullivan and Al Jr. are tied for 3rd, and Sneva is 5th. Kevin Cogan's second-place finish was good enough to earn him the Triple Crown Award and $10,000.
On Saturday, younger son Jeff began what was to become truly an Andretti weekend, Gary Lee reports.
Mike Groff moved out in front but could only lead the first lap before Jeff Andretti went by to set the pace for the next 9 circuits. Italian Fabrizio Barbaza and East Coast midget standout Nick Finoro Jr. put on the best show as they swapped third place 2 and 3 times a lap. On lap 12, Groff regained the lead and began to pull away from Andretti with Barbaza third. On lap 35, the yellow came out for debris on the racetrack. But while under caution, Barbaza rammed the rear of Albert Neon, scattering bodywork down the front straightaway. With the white and green flags out together, Groff picked up the pace, but the engine went flat, and Andretti moved by for the lead and the win. Groff held on for second, with Finoro third in his ARS debut. Tommy Byrne was fourth, and sprint car star Sammy Swindell fifth. For ESPN Speed Week, I'm Gary Lee.
The VW Cup race at Pocono on Saturday was a lesson in patience, teamwork, and drafting. 21 started, but it became a 15-car draft with the wide Pocono straightaway allowing for plenty of passing and jockeying for position. That 15-car draft became a 5-car draft late in the 20-lap race. Number 3, Alistair Ogue, series points leader, found himself in the lead after starting 15th until they came down for the checkered. Number 45, Chuck Hemmingson, used his teammate Darrell Rates to gain momentum, slipstream by Ogue, and win by inches.
This week's Formula One race, also seen here on ESPN, had a familiar punchline, but the story may not so much be who won the race, but who lost it. Many feel Sunday morning final practice before a Grand Prix, normally done with race setup and on full tanks, is the truest indicator of what might happen. This week's winner only 7th best on Sabbath AM, the fastest 6, Teo Fabi 5th, Gerhard Berger 3rd, Keke Rosberg 4th, Ricardo Patrese 2nd. He was quick all weekend. Nigel Mansell the fastest, and Nelson Piquet the 6th, but each would fail to go the distance. The surprising first 2 grid positions, the Benetton BMWs, their Pirelli tire compound, which ironically began the weekend as the reserve, seemed perfectly suited for the uphill, downhill, ultra-fast Österreich ring. Italian Fabi averaged better than 158 miles per hour for pole. Their qualifying speed, no fluke. After great starts, they ruled this contest. Berger in front of his homeland crowd, and then Fabi. But a second later, Fabi became the first of the front runners to set a trend, retirement. The lush, rolling countryside of Austria, many turns with no walls, just farmland to slide off into. Case in point, Zandro Nannini. Alain Prost had sparred only with Mansell today for 3rd and was successful in holding him back. But after everybody else parked, including a non-competitive Ayrton Senna and today's fastest Berger, Prost only had to listen for his own rattles and clunks, which never came. And more importantly, all 3 of his peers in this year's points race, Mansell, Senna, and Piquet, scored 0, and Rosberg was mathematically eliminated. Unbelievably, the points race seems to only get tighter with each race. Only 4 to go.
Coming up from the ridiculously wide and racy high banks,
to the sublime and clay and loam of the mile dirt.
Twisting roads, punishing trails, the open road. Each road demands a different tire to take it on. And with BF Goodrich TA radials, you've got all the different tires you need to take on those roads. The most complete line of high-performance radials in the world. The BF Goodrich TA line, built for you to take on the road.
Just when things are easing down, trouble starts up. And when the dust and everything else is settled, you head for the mountains. Push. Head for the beer brewed natural as a mountain stream, for a taste as smooth as its name. Push. Head for Busch beer. Head for the mountains.
The carb that wanted IMSA. The shocks that wanted Pikes Peak. The heads that wanted Baja. And over 1,000 other high-performance parts are available for your Dodge car or truck at Dodge dealers and Direct Connection Performance Centers. Direct Connection, whether you're going off-road or just down the street. Call toll-free for the dealer nearest you.
Get on the fast track. When man races races to win, you'll finish first on the ESPN with innovative coverage of more than 60 races this year. The world's #1 motor racing network, ESPN.
Last week's Winston Cup race, also seen here on ESPN, seemed to have a foregone, inevitable conclusion, an arm wrestling match. Jackson, Michigan's adopted son, Bill Elliott, has owned this place since becoming competitive, coming in with 3 wins in a row for the last 5. Ohio's Tim Richmond has emerged as this season's superstar. He had a string of 5 top 2 finishes into Michigan. But first, Benny Parsons sauntered up to that table, grabbing the pole. His first lap was not a Van Gogh, though, and he slipped backwards. The usual review of NASCAR stars at the top, not the very least of which Richmond's teammate Jeff Bodine. He was yet again a win candidate until he got stuck in high gear, and no radio certainly didn't help. Ever-burgeoning Rusty Wallace, in between moments of enormous what you call looseness, was in it for a while. Gant, Allison, and Joe Ruttman, gunning to save his ride, was Fast 5 all day until his mount failed again. And the once omnipotent and ornery Dale Earnhardt elbowed his way to the same stare down, but Elliott and Richmond prevailed. The new surface was a little tough on tires, but really heavy on sheet metal. Morgan Shepherd, for instance. Kyle Petty got behind, but this got more than just his behind, and Benny Parsons, popular in the top 5 all day until a late breaking hit. But Elliott, looking like the Elliott of '85, just out for a Sunday drive. Why, even Ernie was relaxed in mid-race. Tim came on strong at the end, however, circumstances just didn't create that showdown. But Richmond was second again. Now first or second, 8 of the last 9. The season is basically 2/3 done, and Richmond has basically caught Waltrip for second. Earnhardt's lead has shrunk to 150 points, or the equivalent difference of about 40 finishing positions. But remember, traditionally the leader after Michigan just doesn't win points.
Morgan Shepherd has been signed to replace Joe Ruttman in the Kenny Bernstein-owned Quaker State Winston Cup car next year. Dale Jarrett will drive the number 98 Mike Kerr-owned Valvoline Winston Cup car this weekend at Bristol. Dale won his first Grand National race last weekend at Rougemont, North Carolina.
Saturday night before the Winston Cup race at Michigan International, several drivers competed in the ASA event at Marne, Michigan. Mike Eddy won it. Mark Martin was second and maintains the points lead, but by only 11 points over Dick Trickle.
The American-Canadian Tour, whose cars will have to change the most to run next year's stock car connection with ASA and All-Pro, were active in New England last weekend. 4 feature winners, first Claude Leclerc, then a triple header leading to an overall winner. Thirds won by Chuck Bown, last week's winner Beaver Dragon, and Dick McCabe. The Oregon Pirate Bown snares the overall.
Stock cars were also active on dirt this weekend. ARCA, easily America's most versatile club, and the first of 3 reports today from Springfield, Illinois. Defending champ Lee Raymond of Dayton, Ohio leads Bob Keselowski and fellow Daytonian Bobby Jacks into the minefield. One of ARCA's most versatile, Jacks, has the hot hand. That's he dealing to an inside straight. Springfield specialist Dean Roper has made 1 extra stop for tires, but reds and yellows have helped keep him in it. Despite lots of smoke from a leaking oil line, he's charging up. With just 6 laps to go, Jacks in command runs out of fuel, and Roper wins his 4th of the last 5 stock races here.
Just north of Springfield at Peoria, the AMA Camel Pro motorcyclists were competing in a TT Tourist Trophy meet. Here in the semi, number 95 Scott Pearson drifted high, nearly lost it, and was passed by Mickey Fay. He went on to win the semi, but Pearson won the last chance race. Chris Carr must like Illinois dirt tracks. The Harley-Davidson rider was second on the DuQuoin, Illinois mile and third on the Springfield mile earlier this year. But today, the Stockton, California rider on number 20 would win his first ever national event. Number 1, Bubba Schobert, beat number 32, Pete Hames, for the runner-up spot. Ricky Graham, winner here the last 2 years, was 4th. Carr, the former amateur national champion, helped his parents celebrate their 22nd wedding anniversary Friday night, then had an even greater reason to celebrate on Sunday.
Mom, Dad, this one's for you. I love you.
When we return, Cool Hand Luke plays it cozy at Lime Rock.
And the Swamp Rat and the Mongoose stir up the field in Brainerd.